And we are live. Things looking good. Um,
Are we live?
so, yeah, we're live. We're live.
Okay.
So
Not
this
showing
is.
for me yet, but
Oh, it might. Yeah, there's a bit of
bit
a
of
delay
delay.
there. Yeah,
Cool, cool.
exactly. What's up, everybody in the chat? Good to see everybody there. I see Ketchup there. It's awesome.
Oh, ketchup. Hi, ketchup.
He's making bird noises at home, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So this is, I think, episode 4 now of the Headphone
Or,
Show live
mm-hmm.
stream. Yeah. So, and this is an interesting one because we have a full unveiling of Mac's settings, or should I
How's
say,
it going?
Carter.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think everybody was. It
Everybody just
continues
assumed my
to
name was Max.
exactly everybody. Yeah, and so actually, I was going to ask you about that. We might as well start there. So
Okay.
this, so to my, to your on the right side bottom is Mac's settings. He's a, for those who are unaware, he's a YouTube reviewer, does headphone reviews, and he was at CanJam as well, and so we got
Mm-hmm.
to meet up in person. And this is the first time that Max has turned the camera around. And so the question I'd put to you is: do you are your videos now going to be turned around? Is it going to be?
Uh,
Are you seeing a whole new world right now in
Seeing
your
a whole
head?
new world. Well, I mean, the reason why I've never, I don't know, turned the camera around is because, I just never really saw a reason to do it. I mean, because it's not about me, it's about the product.
Yeah,
But I mean, maybe now for maybe like I don't know a fit reason or something, I could maybe do some shots with me in the video, but I don't expect like full on me talking the entire time. But
well, so with that, I was going to ask. I mean,
mm-hmm,
you're doing the YouTube thing now, but I mean, is this just
uh-huh.
on the side, or is
Yeah, it's
this
just on the side for fun.
what is your normal go to livelihood?
Okay, so right now I'm doing two things. I actually am in college. I'm a college student right now,
Oh, right on.
and I'm currently pursuing a degree in audio engineering. So that is fun.
This seems
And
appropriate.
yeah,
My nephew's doing
I'm
that
also
year.
working for one of my friends runs a media production company, and I'm working for him on the side too a little bit. And I am the audio engineer for him as well. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now primarily. And then just YouTube on the side for fun.
For fun, yeah.
Yep.
And going to headphone events like CanJam,
Hmm.
which just happened this past weekend.
Yep.
And for anybody who didn't go, I highly recommend going. That was my first time, and it was awesome. And I'll have a whole bunch of videos coming up here soon on the CanJam experience. And actually, I got to interview a ton of people, which was awesome. It was, yeah, I got to connect with the YouTube crowd like Metal 571, Max Settings, DMS, but also a lot of the vendors. So I did interview with Fang Bian from Hi-Fi Man and Sankar from Odyssey. So
Hmm.
that was kind of like a highlight for me. But I figured I'd ask you, Max or
Hmm.
Carter. I don't know what should I say. Max, is that okay?
Just Max is fine. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Uh, what was the let's say maybe not highlight because we have a video on that, but what was something interesting that you took away from CanJam that you weren't expecting?
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. This year there were quite a few surprises at CanJam. I mean, obviously you'll see this when I guess your full highlight video comes out. But the DMS Dianify, which you made a video of yesterday, I saw
Yeah.
that was one of the big surprises. Because the thing I've always said about at least the more modern Abyss stuff was that the technical performance was always there. It was just that the comfort was always very compromised, and the tuning in the FR has always been a little bit off to me.
Hmm.
And his mod fixed the comfort and also made the FR a lot more normal than the Dianify had ever really been. Eh,
You had an opportunity to try them side by side at the show, like the stock
yes,
Dianify and then the modded. Yeah.
yes, as well as I also spent a couple hours with it, in a actual hotel room.
Oh, right, that's right.
Friday night
You guys
and
were
Saturday.
doing that, yeah, ahead
Yeah,
of
we were doing
time.
that. Well, it was me, Metal 571, Flux from Discord, Ketchup, who was in the chat or was earlier, and one of my friends. Yeah, and Friday and Saturday night, we got to spend 3-4 hours with it both nights. On like our own source gear with our own music, and actually got to really spend some time with it and evaluate it. And it's really really good. Um, People need to take this seriously. This could be the game changer. This is like what everybody wants, the LCD4 with mids at like HD 650 weight.
Yeah. So there's a few things with that. I mean, you mentioned that you guys got a chance to try it with your own music, and actually that's something that Flux was uh, at just about every table. I saw Flux with his own music, switching out his own music for whatever, so he could actually have a chance to listen on stuff that was a reference for him.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much of a difference that makes when you're trying to get any sort of serious impression at these kind of shows. I mean, yeah, show conditions it's not ideal anyways, but if you're listening to music that you're not familiar with, you don't know what that stuff is supposed to sound like or what it's supposed to sound like on gear that you use as a reference. So being able to hear what, for you, the Dianify DMS mod, being able to hear that in that hotel room with your own music goes a long way, I think, to being able to make that kind of assessment. For me, I just heard it off of what DMS had.
Yeah, which was like the WA 11 and the XDSD, or no, XCAN.
Yeah, that's right. And so he was basically, for anyone unaware, he was walking around the show and just taking he had them around his neck basically, and he was just putting them on people and getting their impressions. And specifically a lot of the reviewers, not just people on YouTube, but like people who write articles and stuff like that. So he was getting people to try them and getting feedback, and then a lot of this was to see what the general consensus was, and it seemed to be exactly what Max is saying, that all the issues that were there for this headphone. I mean, in my review, I did not like the headphone all that much because of the comfort. I thought there were certain things that I liked, but the comfort was just, it killed it for me. And then his mod fixed so much about it that I mean, I'm inclined to agree. I'd have to evaluate them, side by side with other, like with my own music, like you were saying, and with next to like an LCD4 or something like that, or other crazy detail stuff to get a sense of that exactly. But from the coolest thing about the DMS Dianify for me is that this is the first time that I've heard something that it doesn't feel like the form factor compromises on the technical performance. Because usually, like with planars, they'll make it single-sided, or they'll have some way of reducing the weight, and then that means that they're not putting in the strongest magnets or something, right? Yep. And with the Dianify, from my understanding, is that the driver there is very similar to what's going on with the 1266 TC.
Yeah, I think it's the 1266 TC driver just scaled down 4 millimeters smaller.
Just a tiny little bit smaller there to fit the so that's, and actually I was surprised to learn about this because those are pretty small transducers in there anyways, in both the 1266 and the Dianify, especially when you compare it to like the 106 or 107 millimeter drivers from Odyssey. And then they're still able to get pretty good dynamics and slam and impact and all that. So that was surprising to me as well. But go ahead, yeah.
And I remember seeing DMS talk about this on the episode he was on. I think it was your last one.
Yeah.
Where they spend crazy amounts of money on the magnets for those things. Like, what do you say? Like almost like $1,000 per headphone just in raw cost on the magnets, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was surprising. Like,
I think said, like, they spend like a couple thousand for a handful of magnets, which I'm going to assume is like roughly $1,000 each on magnets.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And now, so like that was actually something. Let's just get back to the Dianify there, because the what his mod wasn't just pads. It was he removed the front cover. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. He took out the front or screen over the driver, and I think also on the back too there was some screen he took out also,
Mm.
if I remember correctly. But so he tells me the pad changes were what's responsible for most of the tuning differences.
The
The
frequency response
or
and
yeah,
tonality
the frequency
differences. Yeah.
response, yeah, changes. And the mesh, he doesn't think makes as much of a difference, but I believe he told me that it just increases the detail a little bit.
I could see that. That makes sense.
Mhm. And obviously they don't recommend you take out the mesh because it compromises the longevity of the headphone because
Yeah.
this is they want their headphones to last like 100 years or whatever. That's their whole thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm honestly okay with taking it out and dealing with it, just treating it like an e-stat or something, where just put like a bag on it, like Stax owners do. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what he told me about his mod.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was chatting with them, they didn't seem to like. I was
No,
asking
they're not real
actually.
thrilled.
No, because like I was asking earlier if it's something that they would like if you could just produce his modded headphone as like the regular, let's call it the Diana 5 V2 or something like that.
Mhm.
And I think that's the biggest hesitation there is, changing the front cover. But I also wanted to ask when you compared. So did you try the stock Diana 5 at their booth where they
At
had
their
the
booth?
two?
Yes.
Yeah. How'd you find that?
I thought his mod, obviously was a much more even FR. The mid-range sounded a little more correct and less dip. And Diana usually had that. Where's that shout at? Like 1K-ish or
For me, it's a
something?
1K. Yeah, but like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that like 1K-ish shout.
I mean, he's right that like when you move it like back and forth,
It does change
It
a little
changes.
bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and then I also thought his sounded a little bit more detailed, and I thought it slammed a little bit harder too.
Definitely.
The Diana 5.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely. Did you try the Diana V2?
I did. I wasn't a massive fan of the Diana V2.
I did not like that at all. And
I
you
didn't
know,
like it. It sounded
it-
way less
it's
detailed.
it sounded nowhere near as good, even compared to the stock Diana 5. Like
Agreed.
it was like the technical performance was just not on the same level,
No,
even a little bit.
no, it sounded to me like maybe like a $15-ish $100 planar. It
Yeah,
didn't sound like a $3,000
and
planar.
it's fascinating because apparently they measure the same,
I know.
and they do not sound the same at all. And
That's
to
really
me,
weird.
that's like the next kind of like putting the screws to this idea of it's all just frequency response, because clearly there's something else going on there if they do measure the same, right?
In theory, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what
still
he's measuring on though, but
right, and that's the other
so
thing
that's
is
a
like
whole nother discussion.
exactly, yeah.
What are they doing their measurements on?
Yeah, and who knows? Because like, I bet if it was like a completely unsmooth measurement, maybe there are a few differences here and there that we're just not like paying too much attention to, and the overall tonality is generally the same. But the few little things here and there that the unsmooth pieces that we're not really noticing might have an impact there. But yeah, in any case, that was definitely very interesting. What was there anything for like source gear that you found interesting from CanJam or surprising?
So, yeah, the one thing that really surprised me at the Odyssey table, they had a Nagra tube DAC.
So Nagra, I learned afterwards, actually talking to I think some of the guys from Head Audio. Nagra is a company that was. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but they're some of the ones who were involved in like the Watergate tapping. Like they were
Really?
producing, yeah, like they
never read
were.
of Nagra. I know nothing about them.
But those are like the more old school kind of DACs, right? Like that's
Yeah, tube DACs, or that's like old
Yeah,
school stuff.
Yeah.
And I know I was with Flux, and he was flipping out about it with the LCD4 because the LCD4 is pretty much his favorite headphone.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, because at the Aussie table they had like the title with the default playlist and the curated tracks, and he's like, okay, I need to see if this is as legit as I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the nerve to like go unplug the iPad, swap the cable, plug in his phone. It took Susvara he had with him out of his bag at the Odyssey booth and plug a Susvara into this amp and DAC combo at the Odyssey table, and he listened to something and he's like, "Here, try this," and he throws the Susvara in my head and plays some Amber Rhubarth track, and this thing starts and there's this like violin, and I'm like looking around like, whoa, that thing was like 25 feet way over there, and it scared me. And I kept listening, and the layering and the staging on that DAC is insane. I've never heard that level of layering and staging on any other DAC before.
The Amber Rhubarth stuff, that's binaural recording, isn't it?
It was a binaural recording, but
Yeah.
even with normal stuff, like the overall just like imaging and separation of that DAC is incredible.
Yeah,
Now, granted, it's also $30,000, but
but see, there you go. DACs do make a difference. That's always like a big question
that's a
mark for me.
whole other discussion we could talk about.
Yeah. But actually, like that question of, I mean, we can get into it, but the idea of a DAC measuring well and a DAC sounding really good. I mean, to me, I'm still like, I definitely think that there's more to the story there than just, you know, what the measurements indicate. It's like,
I agree.
It's like saying, you know, here's how this sounds because this is what we can measure, rather than you know, listening to it first and saying, here's how this sounds because this is what I experience, and then trying to figure out what explains that experience. Right? It's going backwards. But at the same time, I mean, it's that same conversation that Tyler and I had last time about tube amps. And you know, that kind of stuff where the experience is often missed or latch onto data points and not really think about the experience. But actually, with that, did you get a chance to go to the ZMF?
I did.
Yeah. What did
I
you?
spent some time in there.
What was your takeaway from that?
Okay, so the thing with ZMF is what you're definitely paying for with his headphones is obviously the wood, the craftsmanship, the build quality, and a very, very certain house sound. You don't buy a ZMF for technical performance and detail for the price. Obviously, the Verite is definitely by far the most detailed thing he makes. But for whatever, 2600?
20, well, it depends on which one you get. Like, you can
wood.
get,
But anyway, yeah, it's still not, I don't think, a $2,000 or $2,500 headphone in terms of detail. But most of his headphones have a very pleasing, you know, relaxing, kind of laid back, warm sound for the most part. But you also can change it a lot with pads, whereas like typically the suede pads can, you know, make it actually bring up the treble a little bit and, you know, pull down the bass a little bit. And the Aeolus with the Universe perforated suede pads actually measures a lot like a Sennheiser, like an HD600 or a 650 or something along those lines. Whereas it with like a sheepskin pad is a much warmer, darker headphone.
Sorry, just see somebody says, Samuel White says, I know I'm late, but whoa, Max Docs. With the thing with the ZMF that I've found, with ZMF Verite specifically, that I've found is now that there's, if you look at, you know, that price range, it is a bit of a challenging price range, as far as like trying to compare, you know, technicalities, because now you have headphones like the headphone, head audio headphone.
Head audio, yep.
Yeah, and that's like $1,900, $1,800, I think.
I think it's $1,799.
Yeah. And that thing, I mean, you got a chance to hear it, right? So
I did.
What was your takeaway from that one?
Okay, so the headphone was an interesting one. So they had an actual table there, and on the table they had a Hugo TT2 and a Phonitor X, and I think they had Rune or whatever hooked up.
Yeah.
And you know, I listened to this with Flux also, and at the same time we were both trying it, and actually Metal was there too, so all three of us all tried it at the same time. And we listened to it, and we were all just like really underwhelmed by it. Like, it sounded fine. There was nothing like glaringly wrong with it, but people were hyping it as like the be all end all, you know, LCD4 killer, end game headphone, and we were pretty disappointed with it.
Hmm.
Fast forward to day 2, we went over to the IFI table, and IFI had their whole stack, ICANN, IDSD or IESL,
It's
whatever.
behind me actually. It's right there.
It's right behind you. Yeah, you have it back
Yeah.
there. And for whatever reason, on that particular amp, it actually sounded really good. Like, it actually sounded like it was worth its price point. It had really solid detail for the price point. It actually could slam a little bit, and that little bit of bass boost helps because the headphone does roll off a little bit in the
Like
bass regions.
it's a down shelf slightly.
It's a
like
slight
it extends,
downshelf.
but it's yeah.
Yeah, so just a little bit of like 1 or 2 clicks of that bass boost on the ICANN Pro kind of pulls that shelf back up a little bit
Mhm.
and gets it flat and makes the bass sound a lot more correct.
It's funny. I learned that with the Pro ICANN, the all of that bass boost stuff
It's analog.
it's all analog. Yeah, for all of their
Mhm.
stuff,
Mhm.
which is interesting. But
That's
anyways,
weird.
yeah, continue.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so on the IFI stack, it actually sounds pretty good. I still don't think it's a LCD4 killer, but for the price point, it actually sounds like worth its price point, at least on that stack. So I'm thinking it's pretty amp picky.
Did Max already shill DMS, Diana? Yes, he did.
Yeah, we showed that. We didn't even talk about the 1266 yet, but
Yeah. Well, so actually, I wanted to mention, so the reason why, at least this is my hunch, you guys listened to it on the SPL phone editor the first day.
Yep.
And the first day, they didn't have well, there's two things. First, you guys listened to it single-ended, right?
Yes.
And they also didn't have the dip switch for gain turned on for the SPL phone editor. And it 100% requires it for the headphone. Whereas with the...
I mean, it didn't
i5
sound good on the Hugo either, though. That was the thing.
I don't think the Hugo. I actually haven't heard it on the Hugo. I'm not sure. What was it? Was the Hugo feeding the SPL phone editor?
No, it was its own thing.
Oh, okay. Because so the other thing I was going to mention is I'm pretty sure it just requires a ton of power, and the Pro ICANN has a ton of power.
Yeah,
like
it
it's
was
like 14
watts.
watt. Yeah, it's crazy. So if you give it a ton of power, it can do it. So I imagine that if you guys heard it the second day on the SPL phone editor, when with the gain switch flipped, that it would probably sound a bit better. And the other thing I was going to mention is that because when I was evaluating it, I had those two combos as well. So the Pro ICANN behind me, and then the phone editor up there as well, and the IHA6. And the headphone comes with a single-ended cable, but I actually happen to have, because it's the same connectors as the ZMF cable.
Yep.
I was able to just use my balanced cable and run it on all the balanced outputs. And I noticed that on the balanced outputs, obviously you get more power. It sounds like it's supposed to. It sounds actually really, really good. So that leads me to think, it probably just requires a ton of power for starters, but I also think that they definitely should have run it balanced on both stacks.
It's possible.
Yeah, and then I don't know. The Hugo does it have a balanced output? I'm not sure, but the Hugo TT, right?
Yeah, Rob Watts has this thing against balance. He does not like balanced outputs.
So does Benchmark, right? I think.
No, Benchmark does balance. HPA4 and DAC.
Oh no, sorry, I'm thinking of there's one other company. They published something on why they're like, headphones are all 2-channel systems anyways, and
but that's a whole nother debate.
It's a different.
We could split into
Yeah, for sure. But for power requirements, I mean, that's already the main advantage of going balanced, right? You have way more power available, and so for me, that's with a headphone that was immediately noticeable.
Yeah, it's possible. It could be one of those headphones like HE6, which is back there for me.
Yeah,
on the shelf where you can get it loud enough off of most normal amps, but it can swing. It has a huge power swing. It can pull a lot of wattage, particularly when it does bass. Where if you run it on something like, I don't know, like if you plug a HE6 to a Magni 3, for example, on high gain, you'll get it loud enough to listen to for sure. Probably without maxing it out. But when you start introducing bass into it, the driver has so much movement potential. It can pull a lot of power overhead. So you'll hit that power ceiling really quick, and the driver will, just hit like a maximum of how much power it has to produce bass. So it could be a scenario like that.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask about your HE6 there, because have you modded it at all for comfort?
For comfort, yeah. Hang on, let me grab it. Hang on.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So the only mods that were done to it was I put an LCD4 headband on it, so you can see it.
Oh, you took the whole.
I took the whole headband off.
Yeah, okay.
This is Audeze Yokes, a full LCD4 headband.
That's brilliant.
Otherwise, it's stock. It's just just the standard Headphone pads, and I didn't do like any people do like blue tack mods or whatever. But yeah, codex mods. Yeah. Otherwise, it's stock. But I just put LCD4 headband on it.
Because that was always my issue with
those
the old ones. The new ones are way more comfortable, but the old ones are
that's always been the problem. Oh, and then those headbands would break too. They're the little plastic sliders.
Oh, but those are on the 400i's and 560 and all those.
Oh, those ones.
Those were the yokes would just like snap.
Yeah, so those would snap. But on the older style with like the HE6, the HE5, like the original ones, that had that little plastic circle that had like on it that would slide up and down the metal.
Yes,
that would actually break. And
I found that the metal on, because the yoke piece is metal on all those. On my old HE500, that it corroded the metal for whatever reason. Like,
really,
it's not like I was in any weird environment. I was just sitting there, and like the metal would just change color and get corroded, and I don't know, like
possible.
It was really, I had to polish it and stuff. It's like polishing silverware or something.
Yeah, that's what the HE1000s do. That like the V1s,
oh, do they?
The original V1s, they tarnish. They start turning black. So people get like silverware polish, and they take it in like a rag and like polish them.
So what are you up to today? Got to polish my headphones. Yeah. So I was gonna ask the HE6. I mean, that's is it your daily driver headphone, your primary go-to?
I consider it my daily driver headphone.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is that, like, if you could pick an ideal frequency response, would it be something like that, or what would be your ideal frequency response?
I would cut the treble slightly, just like maybe 2 or 3 dB off the treble. This is like pushing my limits of treble tolerance, but the thing about it is the decay is really fast. So it's not as bad as something that's bright but with a very slow decay. So it's doable, and it's not too bright for me, but I can definitely see how it would be for some people.
Well, those people say the older Hi-Fi Man headphones were bright, and the newer ones are not quite as.
No, they're still pretty bright.
I was gonna say, but if I compare like the Sundara to, the Sundara is bright too, but it's not like the HE6, right? It's not quite that.
It's a little less bright, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually listened to the HE1000 SE on a UTERP, which is an Auris audio tube. Yeah. I listened to that, and when I listened to the HE1000 SE at home, it was way too bright. Like the treble, like not sharp, not like harsh or anything like that, because it's crazy resolving, crazy detailed, but the frequency response is just like at 10K or something, 9K, or maybe even higher than that. It's just crazy boosted.
Yeah, it's really splashy. It has a lot of air, and it gets way out of control.
Yeah, like it's just not focused. And then when I listened to it on the UTERP, it actually it focused it a lot. It was a lot better.
Tubes can do that.
Tubes can do that.
Start messing with the really high end frequencies.
So that might be the solution to the HE1000 SE, because then you still get the technical ability from the headphone, and it's not hard to drive either. Like it's sensitive.
Was it like 19 ohms at like 100 some odd a milliwatt?
It's too sensitive for any of the amps back here.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's doable off phones. Like I think it's even easier to drive than the Ananda, which is already meant to be driven.
Oh yeah, it is. It is way easier. Yeah. This, by the way, my favorite brand at the show. I should probably do a video about this, but my favorite brand at the show was Earmen.
Earman.
Just
Didn't stop by them.
Just because of the name. But you saw the name, right?
I saw the name. Yeah, the name is good.
Yeah. So Earmen is Oris Audio. It's the same people who do Oris Audio. Because for anyone unaware, they do ridiculously high end tube amps like that look crazy. Like I don't know, they look amazing. And they decided to do some entry level solid state stuff with this, and that's what Earman is. And this is the TR-amp.
Yeah, I saw that in the preview video.
If you get rid of the hyphen, it's a tramp. So I love the name. And then the other one they have, which I don't have here, is the Donald DAC. DAC.
Donald DAC is a great name.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I haven't really played around with this much, but this is right around the same kind of thing as the iFi Nano. It's a little bit bigger, but
That's
not much.
It's a lot bigger than the Nano or the Micro.
So the Nano, this is actually it's longer than the Nano, but it's not as chunky, right?
Okay. Is it priced
but,
like the Nano?
Yeah, I think so. It's like $249. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Nano's actually getting discontinued, by the way.
Oh, really? Is it?
By the hip DAC, yeah.
Okay. That makes a certain amount of sense, yeah. The weird thing about the Nano is that the IE Match has like 4 ohms output impedance on it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So you use it with like an Andromeda, it just like kills your bass.
Yeah, like it's like why? It's like you have a specific port for IEMs that ruins the sound of the most popular IEMs.
I know.
I didn't get that. Yeah, but anyways, I haven't even used this at all yet. I have to still mess around with that and see how it does. But that's a ESS based DAC amp combo. And I'm keeping my eye out for a lot of that stuff more and more these days, because stuff's just getting easier and easier to drive. You don't need to have the crazy, like there's stuff like head audio obviously, but then there's other stuff like the HE1000 SE where it's just coming down and you could drive it off that no problem.
Oh yeah, easily,
yeah. So your ideal frequency response is something like an HE6, just maybe not quite as bright.
More or less,
yeah. I noticed you have a very unique headphone on right now that is one of a kind. Why don't you tell me about that?
Actually, no, there's 2 of them. Flux has one too, but
okay. One of two.
One of 2, yeah. At CanJam this year, Axel Grell was there, and for those of you that don't know who Axel Grell is, he is the gentleman that worked at Sennheiser from 1991 to 2018. And he is the designer of headphones of the likes of the HD580, the HD580 Jubilee, HD600, HD650, HD800, HD700, HD660S, HD58X,
HD820.
HD820. That was his last headphone, 820. So he kind of went out on a poor note. But yeah, so anyway, I saw him there at the show. I started talking to him for a little bit, and we talked about a few different things. And I asked him if he would autograph my HD580, and he gave me a really surprised look. So I think I'm the first person that's ever asked him to sign a headphone, because it was based on his look. So you can the camera will focus.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah,
I think it's upside down too. But right there on the headband is Axel Grell's signature on a HD580.
That's the original HD580.
That was his first headphone. Yes.
Yeah. So the resale value of that has gone up.
It's gone up. Probably so. Yes.
Yeah. I actually met him as well there. I was trying to shoot an interview with him, but my battery died halfway through, which is really unfortunate. But I was asking him about diffuse field, like his whole concept of the diffuse field loudness equalization. I was asking him like, how did you achieve that? Because there's some information about that online, but I was always questioning where that came from. Where they sat people in a room and then had speakers all around and then had microphones in the ears, and I never really got clarity on what the actual process was for that. But it turns out that's actually what they did, and then that's how they developed the tuning of the HD800. I think was the original.
Yeah, which that apparently doesn't work that well because HD800 tuning is a little weird, but.
Yeah, you get so that's the thing, right? They based it on, let's say, hard science rather than consumer research.
Well, yeah, which is interesting to me because when I was talking to him, also he was telling his philosophy for tuning
Mm,
headphones. And he also was talking about this. They had like an AMA panel with a bunch of people, which was another
right.
interesting story. But um, he was going on this whole thing about how when he's creating headphones, that he listens first. That's the first thing. He always listens to it. The other thing he said that was interesting was he tries to listen with the ears of people from like different countries and different nationalities. Because
That's
according to
interesting.
him, people in Japan want a different kind of sound than people in the United States, the people in like the Middle East or Europe. Like they all have slightly different preferences in terms of sound, like more bass, less bass, more treble, less treble, more mids, less mids, stuff like that. And he said that when he was creating headphones, that he would intentionally listen to like popular types of music in different areas to try to see how they would perform with those types of genres. And he would train himself to know like what generally people in certain regions preferred, so that he could try to get a sense of how it would be received in different geographical areas.
So he's doing market research for different
Hmm.
regions as well, the same way that like the Sean Olive the
Yes.
consumer curve is sort of the general sense of that.
Hmm. And that was one of
And
that was one of his complaints with Olive in the Harman Target. Was I think Olive only did listeners in the U.S. as far as I know,
or
or
North
North
America,
America.
yeah,
North America,
yeah.
yeah.
That's really interesting, and I wonder. I mean, let's assume that this has something to do with like cultural, yeah, like cultural preference for
Hmm.
music and how sound should be, right?
Hmm.
Um, I assume that's what it is, but that's fascinating that that would be
Hmm.
something to focus on.
Allegedly, there's also some physical
So
difference.
that's the other thing I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody told me about this once. I've never actually saw the post myself, but somebody told me that a couple of years ago, Jude from HeadFi and one of the other like whatever administrative people there at HeadFi did a test where they were listening to a sign sweep or whatever on some headphone,
Oh yeah.
and when they got like above 10K, like Jude, this guy, and everybody else in the office that was of like Asian descent heard like this peak at like I think it was like 14.5K or something like that, where people who were like Caucasian heard it at like a different frequency or something like that. And there's apparently like some slight difference to the human ear depending upon your nationality or something. So I've heard.
Ethnicity.
Or ethnicity, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Ideally not coming up with something like the bell curve for headphones, but
Hmm.
it's very interesting that there's both cultural differences and ethnic differences,
Yep.
if that is even the case.
Hmm.
But I'd be curious to see the differences in Axel Grell's research, market research for, even if it is, even we're talking just sort of the cultural differences for how people prefer to hear headphones.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and then
Versus the,
go
the
ahead.
the Sean Olive consumer market research, which is, yeah, let's assume that it's just North America. I don't actually know if that's true, but seeing where those, it'd be interesting to see. Okay, here's the consumer curve for North America, and then here's the consumer curve for Europe, and here's the consumer curve for Asia, or that kind of
Hmm.
stuff, and see where the preferences differ.
Hmm.
Just as I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
And then continuing off of what he was saying, so after all that kind of stuff, then he does the measurements, and
Right.
his point was that a lot of people are biased by frequency response measurements, and it makes them hear stuff that maybe is not necessarily there, which I agree with to some degree, because people
Yeah.
do get biased by graphs somewhat. But then you also don't want to be those people that say that the graphs mean literally nothing, because there's a lot of people out there like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so the thing he was saying was that on the HD820, there's that big dip at like 300 hertz in the bass.
Yeah.
He Grell was telling me, he was like, he was like, yeah, that dip at 300 hertz, when you listen to it, it's not actually there. The only reason anybody hears it is because people see the measurements and they want to hear it because the dip is there, or because they see the dip there. And I'm just like, I don't know about that one, but
Well,
I get his point, but not in that case. I don't agree with him there.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Whoop, we lost. We're getting Tyler back.
Tyler's back.
All right. I think. But yeah, there's a few things with that. The first is that, so when you told me that, it made me think, okay, I was probably wrong about my assessment of why the HD820 sounds the way that it does. I just assumed that where the 300 hertz dip is, if it wasn't there, there would be ringing or it wouldn't be as clean, because that's where the absorption, like, because the glass is concave, right? So the point is to, deal with reflections off the glass by sending them towards some sort of absorption. That's what they call it anyways.
Yep.
I just figured that'd be right around 300 hertz, and so then they're just gonna drop it. But it sounds like they'd have to, and then that's how they managed to make the stage still good, spacious, and get all the separation qualities. But it sounds like they could have done that somewhere else, and I wonder,
Possible.
yeah, like I wonder what would have been required. Maybe a different angle to the glass or something like that, and then drop. I'm just trying to think of what frequency wouldn't be as bad. Maybe 3K hertz.
Yeah,
because
something that people are really sensitive to.
Yeah, and then, there's a lot of headphones that do that. I mean, to a certain extent, the Verite does that, and it gives a certain character to the presentation. That, I mean, personally, I like energy at not too much, but I like a little bit of energy there for pianos and stuff like that. But for a lot of music with instruments, it's fairly innocuous. It's not actually all that bad.
Yeah.
To have a bit of a dip there. But at 300 hertz, I definitely hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear it too. I think most people that hear the 820 also hear it.
Yeah, and it accentuates, because there's also like a bass emphasis there too. It accentuates the bass emphasis.
Oh yeah.
And it just doesn't sound as clean or well defined to me. I think.
Oh.
Yep, and we're back. But I was gonna say the other part of that is, if you imagine the average consumer listening to the HD820 and not necessarily picking up on the 300 hertz dip, the success of the HD820, of the closed back yet still spacious type of stuff, that I think, in some ways, for the average person who isn't specifically listening for that kind of 300 hertz dip, I can see his point, where they'll notice more the things that it's successful at, rather than the wonkiness at 300 hertz. And I think that's something that you and I probably we scrutinize so much about the frequency response and tonality and all this. But I think for the average person, when they just put on a headphone, never look at measurements, never think about any of that stuff, it's probably a lot easier to identify with the things that a headphone does really, really well than the things that headphones may not be perfect at, right? Or may have an issue with.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair, obviously. But the thing is, though, is how many normal consumers are buying a $2,400 headphone? That's the
normal in the sense of not being as picky or like scrutinizing. Like, normal is in like not a headphone reviewer.
That's fair, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the 820 is a mixed bag online.
Yeah.
I've seen love and hate of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that to me, it's a polarizing headphone as well, I think. But yeah, getting back to just a few other CanJam subjects, actually.
Cool.
It sounds. Oh, Tyler's back. Yay.
Tyler's back. Hey.
Actually, Tyler, did you have any questions for Max that you want to?
No, I was just kind of listening. Curious about the ZMF piece. Was kind of interesting. Obviously, very contentious. Outside of that, that was the only really thing I want to talk about. I guess the only other thing leading into this would be some of the questions some of the folks on the forum and then in the chat had, where would lead to a different conversation, such as I think you were mentioning it earlier, Andrew, too, before jumping on, was the synergy and or tiers of gear that you would recommend or that you listen to personally. Actually, I think is what was more what they're looking for, like what's your like low tier, entry level, mid level, high level listening systems. And go from there. I think for me personally, my low level would probably be the I have them sitting here. Would be the COS Porta Pros with Yaxi pads with standard dongle into a phone, and then
I think your phone is on.
Yeah, somebody's phone's vibrating.
Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Should have done. But yeah, so as I say, the Yaxi pads with that stuff, and then mid level.
So how much does that come in at the Yaxi pad with the?
If you get them from Drop, you can get them with the Yaxi pads for well under $50, probably closer to $40.
Holy smokes! I did not realize it was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not expensive, and they're as far as like entry level, amazing. I mean, for entry level,
yeah,
I'd be shocked if anybody had anything bad to say about them at that level.
I saw somebody on the bus with them, and I wanted to like go up and be like, "Good, you have good taste."
I was chatting with Taryn and I think it was Taryn and Andrew were talking about how there was a guy that trolls him. He feels like that wears the COS Porta Pros and just kind of walks around their office and like around the bus.
That's amazing.
That's great.
It's funny.
See him out the window.
Yeah, and then as far as I guess portability wise, I use the KN-N6II for my portability DAC. Or DAP, I guess would be more appropriate. And I use that actually with all of my headphones. So I actually use them with my Verite Close, my Verites, my Eolus.
Sorry, the KN6II, that's the mid-level one, right?
Yeah, it's the one right below the N8. So
right. Okay. Yeah.
And it has the modular system, so you can pop out the amp DAC systems. You
cool.
They have 3 now.
Cool, yeah.
And so that really good.
Does that one have EQ, like full range EQ?
Yeah, it has the Hibby. It has the Hibby. They partner with Hibby, so the Hibbies, they're weird. They don't call it EQ; they call it something else, but it's a similar system where you can like do the EQ, and then obviously it's full Android, so you can do the Google Play Store, all that fun stuff.
Right.
That's my portable.
And you can stream Tidal and
I have Qobuz,
yeah.
Spotify Premium on here, and then I did have Tidal on here for a little bit before I.
Yeah, because I was actually looking at getting that one before, like it just came out, and I was looking into DAPs, and I was deciding between that one and the A&K SR15. Ended up getting neither, but I think those are. What's that?
SR15 is actually that's what I upgraded from. I still have the SR15 sitting here, and that's what I upgraded to was that from the SR15, just because it's had more power, so I can run it with.
Right.
I can throw these on it. Not that it's perfect with that, but
right.
Obviously you need more power for those things. I even listened to the headphone with it, to be honest. Which is
cool.
Cool. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad.
But that has balanced output too, right?
Yeah, it does. 4.4 Pinnacle, which has become my go-to balance for everything now. So
cool.
4.4. Yeah, I like 4.4 a lot.
There we go.
It's
but that's with this module. So like there's
right.
the new one, the EO one, I believe, is the newest one, which is only single-ended, and it's only one. I think it's only the 3.5. So something
right.
For the
I like the idea of having it with balance. It seems. I don't know. I'm all 2.5 on balance, but I can understand the appeal of Pentacon, but like I just think they need to decide like have one.
Like, which is This is actually I randomly. Oh no, this is my very apt cable, but I have it on my. My Verite opens. I have these the Heart audio cables.
Oh,
have you
cool.
seen those guys?
No.
Yeah, I have one of those.
They have like this really cool modular system. So
I did see that.
Pentacon, like it, and you just modulate. It just plugs right in with a mini XLR to the mini cable, and so that's my kind of been fun to be able to do that, which has been super helpful with the ZMF because that's a lot of stuff I use on a daily is my ZMFs.
Right.
I can just easily swap them out between all the different devices that I have. So anything from my tubes to the Phonitor to the RME to So
that.
Go ahead.
I was just say that covers your like entry to mid level. What would you say for source gear would be your high end?
So right now, if I'm doing neutral listening and kind of more evaluation level to kind of see what the actual headphones providing me, rather than the DAC or the amp, is I would go RME into my Phonitor XE. That's my neutral listening, and I keep the RME at completely neutral, balanced EQ, nothing, no EQ at all.
Right.
And I try to keep it at the basically the default setting as far as line out, that kind of stuff, for his volume and everything.
Right.
And
that's using the AKM 4490s for the
4490. I don't have the new one.
the
I know
FS.
The
Port does
4493.
have the both of the new RMEs, which I got to play with the other day with him. That was pretty cool.
Man, I just about the 4490s. I was talking to the guys from Lake People, or it's the Bioelectric.
Bioelectric people, yeah.
Yeah, and they had they were using a DAC that I think it's like a prototype that's out either now or it's gonna be out soon. I think it was using the 4490s as well, but they had an amp there called the
Nimbus
that was very interesting.
That was
like
a very
flagship. Like I think it's like, I don't know what the price is. Don't quote me on that.
5,000 or 6,000. It's
yeah, about $5,000. That's what I heard. $5,000. But it was interesting to me that one was, as far as I understand, it was also transformer coupled, and also like I had an interview with the guy there, Freed, his name is, but it sounded to me like there was a desire or an emphasis to make it a little bit more almost like bass focused, a little bit more low end focused, which is interesting. It's I only listened to it with the Empyrean, so I can't really judge how it would be with like, but it changed dramatically from other source gear, so it's very interesting for how solid state stuff changes. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you there, Tyler. I'll let you continue.
No, so and then that's my neutral. I also love so actually, speaking of solid states, the Phonitor is what I upgraded to from all the THX stuff. Like I've had a couple of the THX amps. To me, the THX amps are phenomenal value.
Do you have the 887 as well, or?
I actually got rid of all my THX amps. But I did have the 887, the 789, and I've been able to play with some of the other ones. But to me, they're too sterile, if that makes sense. They don't. The enjoyment's not there. It's they have black background. They sound great. They're neutral, but they're sterile. They don't have the enjoyment factor that the other amps in that realm have.
So with the 789 and 887, those would be like kind of like mid to upper, right?
Yeah,
like they're bordering it. Yeah. Okay.
And I would and as far as like the equivalent, I would say if you're looking for neutrality and just something that's just purely gets out of the way, I found them slightly fatiguing also, but not in a manner that would be even remotely someone that regularly listens to headphones would have a problem with. I don't think your average user, I guess. I mean, I would listen for 8 hours plus on these amps a day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but on the other flip of that, I would say the Jotunheim would be my other favorite as far as enjoyment level. So I think there's two different categories that people need to kind of take into account. There's the I'm analytical and I'm listening to this for analytics, or because I enjoy that bright or that analytical sound. And then there's the enjoyment factor of like we had this discussion like between tubes versus solid states even.
That's your thing about the lean forward sound and the lean back kind of.
Yeah. Like,
I love that.
Am I engaged? Am I leaning forward? Am I picking apart all the sounds that are coming through the headphones, or am I sipping on some whiskey or something that's like, oh, this is it, and then kind of just letting go and relaxing, letting your brain float,
Yeah.
And so that's what I found with the Jotunheim versus the THX. The Jotunheim would be more of that sit back and relax, whereas the THX amps give you that more like in your face, like, oh, I'm picking up little things I didn't really. Not that the Jotunheim couldn't pick those up either. It's just that the way it presents it is more of a relaxed sound.
Now, is that the Jotunheim R?
I have the Jotunheim R currently, but that's completely different.
That's for the RAW.
Yeah.
So that one, like it's a Jotunheim in name just because of the case, but that's purely designed for this. It's not the same.
So then you'd have two. You have a regular Jotunheim as well. And
I did actually.
You did. Okay.
Once I got the Phonitor, it was solid state. It was just excess at that point. As far as solid states that I still have outside of the Phonitor are I honestly think I just have the shit hell.
Yeah.
And that's mostly for gaming and stuff. But and also
So-
obviously the all in ones like the RME and
Right, they have amps too.
you know.
Yeah. How much is the Jotunheim now? Like the one that you
Got rid of, or
God,
the
yeah.
the new so I think they still run like around $300, I think, right?
They're still really
I think
They're
they're
cheap for what-
500 new, but used they're really cheap.
Yeah.
Well-
Okay. Yeah. So that's
No,
what
okay,
it's
it's
499.
399 new with no DAC.
399. Yeah. So $400. Yeah. No.
you could in theory get that with a multi-bit DAC though, right?
Correct. So be aware of that though, because the multi-bit DACs that they have, they're little
Right.
modules, so they're not quite as
Yeah.
good as like a true like a Modi multi-bit or like the
Yeah.
Bifrost or like the
Ian was talking about that a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. Multi-bit in name, but not.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of any of the shit built-in DAC modules personally.
Yeah, they aren't the great. You get more value when you stack it with a matching.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Fair
Which
enough.
leads me to the latest. So for my top tier level, which for enjoyment side of the house would be the Bifrost 2, the new one, and I just basically pair that with everything as far as for enjoyment wise.
What's the
but
DAC
also-
in there?
That's
It's
their
multi-bit.
own. It's a multi-bit, but it's their own design.
Cool.
I believe. But as far as my favorite DAC chip goes, it's the AKMs. So the 4490s and up those are my favorites. And then the next like kind of flavor profile that I like a lot is the Burr Browns. So any of the iffy Burr Browns are some of my favorites. The ESS I always found a little bit too. I guess bright would be the way to put it. That's not quite
Saber
right.
glare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the other ones I just really never took to, so I didn't really give enough time or even have enough experience in explaining.
Like a Cirrus Logic or something.
Yeah. So I mean, but they're good. Like, well, the SR15, that one has that unique. I think is that Cirrus Logic? Can't remember. But that one has. I love the implementation that they did with that. Was the SR15 from NK is honestly that's pretty good for what you're hearing with that. But it's warm. It's a warmer sound.
I just love the form factor. I think it's tiny.
That's a little side. I haven't
Like-
been in a box over here, so I'm getting ready to
Like-
put it up on the market.
I was using this at the show,
Mhm.
trying to, realizing that it's actually a challenge to, because it's so huge,
Yeah.
and the SR15 is like less than half the size of this.
Oh yeah, I should pull it out of the box. It's tiny. I'll do it real quick just so you guys get a size
Yeah.
comparison.
measuring size of port of DAPs.
Like I literally have it still in the box. So
Oh.
yeah, little faux unboxing. Let me get the
Aha.
for the ASM folks, the old box sound. Are you didn't picking that up? Sorry, bad joke. Anyway, so
I'll be listening to that later. Don't worry.
if you can kind of get an idea, this is the KN and this is the
Yeah.
SR15. So I have the little plastic wrap on it still.
Yeah.
So,
That's just like fits into a jacket pocket. Like it's.
yeah, it literally fits inside the screen of the KN. I mean, I can literally
Yeah.
set it inside the leather case and it sits. Come on,
Yeah.
focus. There you go. So I mean, yeah, it's tiny. I mean, it's
Yeah.
little thin. But it sounds great. In fact, I was using this for majority of my listening at work for a couple months there,
Yeah.
and then that's to give an idea. Like I loved it. I used it mostly with my Elysia, what you're wearing now.
Yeah.
Which I think I still think that headphone's super underrated for what it is. I think everyone was expecting bass and they crapped on it because of that.
It's the glasses, man. I'm telling you.
But yeah, it's also the glasses. Hence
the
why I'm not
glasses.
wearing my glasses.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I daily drive these all the time actually. So
Yeah. So you've gone through the solid state stuff, but do you have currently like a flagship tube amplifier like the Pendant or?
yeah. So not the Pendant, but I have the KN HA1A Mark II, which
Oh, the one that looks like a boat.
yeah, with a little
Yeah.
porthole in it. Freaking
Yeah.
that one's super fun. That one is more in line with the Pendant. I don't think it's as good as the Pendant as
Yeah,
far
man.
as sound.
I need to get a Pendant. I need to I brought it back to Zach at the show, and I got home and I was like, Oh man. Like, cause something about like the Verite with the pendant was just. I need to now do that.
It is one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah.
And then I have a kind of have it in the back here, but back here
Okay,
I have
yeah,
another
I see.
listening station, which has my bottlehead crack. And actually, of all things, my which I still keep because it's personalized, but I have an LDAC back there from JDS Labs, which I have it's a Calvin and Hobbes looking at the stars.
Oh.
And then so I use that actually enjoy that the most, the bottlehead crack with my Zimas, but that's purely for enjoyment because that's distortion to a whole nother level with the
Right. Those are like the gooier tubes.
Mega gooey, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but as far as the KNs go, the HA1A Mark II is very similar to the pendant. It just might not be as resolving or like it's just there's something there that's not quite as good. It's just not hitting. It's right there, but it's not to that next level. Which is fair because the pendant I think is 2 to 3 times the cost.
Yeah, it's like $700 or something. It's not expensive.
The hot one, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful. I mean, I have it on my desk. I could move my camera around and show it, but it's all it's behind my camera now.
KN they make good stuff. Like I use the solid state one, but I've really enjoyed like even their like you're saying with the N6II, like the DAPs, everything I've heard from KN has been decent at least.
Yes.
So I'd be curious to hear what that the boat amp looks like or sounds like.
It's well, I think Taryn and Andrew have it in their office. You should really.
Oh yeah.
It's buried
it's
behind
actually
all their whiskey, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the U-Turp there as well, which I need to get into the whole tube thing, man. Like
it's I think that's the difference. Like a lot of times that people lose sight of sometimes is the enjoyment factor of it. Sometimes, like you can get way into the measurements, you can get way into like the analytical piece of it, but at the end of the day, what are you here for? You're here for the music, right? You're here for the listening, the enjoyment, and then for me, like there's other factor is like the art of it, like. Max, you're saying like you're buying a ZMF for the quality of the like the
craftsmanship,
the handmade, like there's an art to it, right? So I'm also buying into
his cables.
Yeah, like there's ZMF cables. So I mean, like there's that
or Mechanos or
I have the Mechanicos. I like it a lot.
The Verite 4-strand silvers. So this is like the latest one, but the feel of it, right? So like the feel of these, the look of them, the way that the cable feels in your hand. Like, I mean, there's all these other factors that come into my enjoyment of listening to like the music I'm enjoying or the scenario. So putting myself in a frame of mind to enjoy the music rather than being super analytical. So that's another part I like to look at it as too. Like, so for me, I'll, late at night, it's a long day at work or hang out with the family, and then they all go to bed and I go in my room and I'll throw on some headphones, start doing some photo editing, and then the next thing I know, I'm not photo editing anymore. I'm just laying back, sipping on some whiskey, and just lost in the music,
It sounds like a good evening routine,
right? Like, so yeah, exactly. So like it kind of puts me at like gets all the edge off and puts me back to where I can mellow out and go lay in bed and crash out. So, but there's all those factors that kick in, like there's the feeling of like literally grabbing headphones and putting them on your head.
Yeah,
like
that's an underrated experience of like the physical, like
the overall experience of it, not just like what am I hearing, like what situation am I in that I'm now putting myself in to enjoy this.
That was the thing for me with a lot of the Odyssey headphones where like they looked nice, but because they were really heavy and I knew they were heavy.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to do was the physical activity of putting them on because I knew it was like I was almost afraid of that. Like I don't want to do this.
I know exactly what you're talking. I did that with the LCDX review I did. Like like I'd actually tweak my neck doing some workouts, picking up heavy things.
Wearing the LCDX?
Yeah, right. In preps for doing that review.
Oh, right, okay.
But yeah, I tweaked my neck, and then I remember I was doing that review, and I'm pretty sure it colored my review to some degree, right? Like, because that's another thing you have to think about. Like, what's your frame of mind when you're going in into listening? Like, if I'm going in like, my neck hurts, and I have to put this heavy ass thing on my head. Like, my mindset's tweaked now. I might have a bias towards that. Anyways, so yeah, with that one, like, that was my thought exactly what you just said. Like, the LCDX threw those on, I was just like, oh, which is funny because I went to CanJam SoCal like shortly after that review. I think a couple months later, and I put on the GX LCD GX.
Yeah, it's way better.
Oh man, that thing is, and it's not as good as the LCD GX for sure. Like, I'm not saying it, but it's right there in my opinion as far as sound quality. It does its job, and I think it's only one-sided magnets, I believe.
Yeah.
It's based on
no phaser.
Yeah.
Based on an MX4.
Yeah, it's an MX4 one-sided with no phaser.
Yeah.
So it's you're not paying as much for LCDX, but I think as far as like quality of sound, it does its job. It does what its intention is.
Fantastic soundstage.
Yeah,
like it's one of the better sound stages for an Odyssey that I've heard.
And I
like it a lot.
I use it almost exclusively, or used it exclusively, or I still have it. It's pretty dark back there, but I have it hanging there. But I use it with the shit hell, and I play video games with it. That was what I was using it for.
Yeah.
That's the intention.
Yeah, exactly. And it works.
I see Valentin Luke in there in the comments saying the LCD4 are even heavier. Absolutely.
Oh
yes,
yeah,
yes,
LCD4 is 735 grams. Yeah.
Yeah. Beast.
It's crazy. I don't know. Max, how did you find the weight for the LCD4?
The LCD4,
did it like impact your?
Didn't bother me. No.
Interesting,
No,
because for me it's like I couldn't get over it.
Really? I just wore it in like a Discord voice chat for like 4+ hours. It didn't bother me.
Well, so actually we were talking about that because found that the more time I spend reviewing headphones and less time I spend, wearing headphones and just in my normal daily routine, at my desk, the more weight doesn't the more I find that the weight of it doesn't bother me as much, because
that's probably fair.
Yeah, because I'm listening for shorter, more concentrated chunks, right? I'm not listening for the 6 to 8 hours that I was before. It's more like 2 to 4 hours at a time, writing down notes and stuff like that. And then you don't get the same neck issues and neck pressure that you would if you were just working all day and happened to be wearing them. So it's a different experience.
But it's always a good idea to try to wear them for as long as possible. But
see where the breaking point is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did 4+ and LCD4. It didn't bother me.
Interesting.
I like the Odyssey headband system personally, but
you do like it?
Yeah, that's why it's on
LCD6. Yeah, I really like it as well. I think so like that's the thing, right? Like the headband, as much as they're heavy, they're bricks. The headband system on top is really nice, and it's because it's really wide. It's way better than what it used to be as well.
Yeah,
like the old LCD2s are not.
Before the comfort strap was bad. Old Odysseys were not comfortable.
That's why I have a lobe strap from an old LCD2, one of the pre-phaser LCD2s.
Oh yeah,
yeah, back in like 2010 or whatever that was out.
First gen, yeah, like 2010,
yeah,
2011.
Yeah, that's
14, I think, is when they switched to the phaser, like late 14.
Yeah. Oh, I see Metal 571 in the chat.
Yep, there he is.
I thought someone stole my purple Atticus for a second there once I joined the stream. That's not an Atticus. That's that's the Verite C. Yeah.
He knows.
Oh, he knows. Okay. You guys are purple bros.
Yeah. Purple alive.
Yeah. Actually, that's so one of the things I'm. I posted some photos, but I'm really curious to see what kind of woods Zach comes out with. The next little bit here, seeing the maple burl, that was crazy.
The new stabilized woods are really.
So yeah, that's right. The stabilized
woods.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Really nice. But anyways, yeah. So, oops, sorry about that. So we did Tyler's source gear. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So what would be your kind of like, let's say, even if you don't have it, but like say you're like entry, mid, and like high tiers.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay. See, so entry tiers, I don't know, do you want to go like really budget, then like budget and then high? Let's do that.
But there's no mids.
I'll do no mids, sorry. I forgot mid. Really
sure.
budget,
yeah.
Mid, and high. Okay. Really budget, I'm gonna go KSC over Porta Pro because I prefer the KSC to the Porta Pro, but either one's fine. Depends on your sound preference.
KSC
I
is
have
the
both.
is
It's the
it's
zipper
the other
one.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the one with the ear clips, KSC
Yep,
75s. Yeah. And then if you need a better DAC amp, obviously like the Apple USB-C dongle is the way to go. Everybody loves the Apple
I
USB-C
hate
dongle.
no.
Yeah, you don't like the Apple USB-C dongle?
No, I hate that you said that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's fine.
Everybody loves the Apple USB-C dongle. But
Yeah.
anyway, so entry level. Oh, yep, there
I
he
have
is.
just a
KSC
lightning
75s.
dongle here.
Oh, yeah, he's got the mass drop ones too. They look better. So that's for entry level for a headphone. If you have a little bit more, I guess you can get a Creative Arvana Live or a K361. Entry level, I'd say either go with like a HD6XX or like a DT880 600 ohm with probably like a shit stack or JDS Atom and maybe like an S stack or something like that. Mid level, I'm probably going to go with Focally Lex. I really like the Focally Lex. And honestly, you can stick with the shit stack with that. You really don't need anything more than
doesn't
that.
need much.
Doesn't need that much. See, and then high end. I mean, it depends on how high you want to
Well,
go.
actually, I wanted to ask you: have you heard the new Sundara? I say new.
No,
Fang told me there was no. Fang told me there was no revision, but he meant like no version 1, version 2. It's still.
I've not heard the.
Different.
I know, everybody's telling me it's like massively different because I owned one Sundara right when it first came out, and then
so actually there was an official revision done to the Sundara after it first came out, after the very, like he said, Dr. Fang said it was like 2 years ago or something like that.
Really?
So it first came out, and then shortly after it first came out, they did a revision there. I think it like was to improve the improve the driver failure rates, so that they were like a little bit more long lasting. Yeah, because that's something they've had to face for a while.
Yeah, but now everybody's telling me in the last like couple months there's been another one that like really changes it.
It's the pads. It's the at least as far as I can tell. Yeah, I'm probably gonna buy this because it's they changed, and also
these like slams now, which I've never Sundara before.
And they changed the dust cover as well. That's what I was told.
Oh, did they put the dust cover permanently on the headphone?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it enough.
Okay, because that's what they did with the Aria. They did the revision of the Aria.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They changed the baffle plate to carbon fiber, and then they took the dust cover off the pad and permanently attached it to the headphone.
So whatever they did to the Sundara, it improved it, like the sound, a lot.
Yeah, I need to get one at some point.
Well, my hope is that if that stays consistent with the rest of the line, like for the Aria, I know they also for the Aria they reinforced the yokes. So there's a few changes there that I need to now re-review the Ananda and the Aria and all those, because the Aria was already like fantastic, and if it improves the way that the Sundara improved, I'm on board. I might have to buy an Aria.
Yeah, I never had the original Aria in house, so I can't really comment on the.
Oh, yours was the revision.
The one I reviewed was the revision too. Yes.
Wait, what? Didn't you get it from Taryn and Andrew?
I did, yeah. But it was.
I don't think.
Too.
I think there's been that was before the yoke changes.
Oh, did they change the yokes?
Yeah, so I think there might have been an even more recent one. Yeah.
Okay, because mine had the new baffle plate and the.
Oh, okay. So all those pieces were in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that much. Okay, I don't know about the yokes though.
Well, I know you can buy the yokes like separately on their site, so like
really?
the whole you can buy the whole headband piece, and that was one of the things that they did change. So
that's where they weren't reinforcing those before, because the real tail end of the 400i, they reinforced the yoke. So I would assume they would have just carried that over when the Aria came out. But I guess not.
Yeah, well, maybe actually that's maybe it just didn't.
Because that was
I don't know.
That was like 2 years before the Aria came out. They were fixing the 400i yokes with metal.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure when that happened or when, because I kept hearing about rumors of the Hi-Fi Man revisions over the last like 3 months, but before that, I didn't hear anything. There was no rumors about that stuff, so that's why I just assumed that the yoke reinforced, because that's what when I researched it, that's what I found, is that they changed the yokes as well. So I figured it was just like all at once, do a whole revision and then change everything. But from my interview with Fang Bian, he said, well, I'll release the video soon actually, but he said that they did change the dust cover for a number of them. And I wonder how much that actually contributes to the sound changes, or whether or not the sound changes were intentional. But anyways, I'll let you get back to your list.
Okay. Was that the Lex? Oh, and then high end depends on how high end you want to go.
Well, let's say let's do like $1,000 mark, or like around $1,000, and then let's do like,
Under 5.
well, yeah.
I mean, on around 1,000. I don't know. You can get a focal clear for around 1,000. The clear is really good.
You would take the clear over the Ananda.
Yeah, I like the clear more than I like the Ananda. But the Ananda's way cheaper. The Ananda would have been down with like the OLX. Yeah, that would have been in the mid tier with the OLX.
Yeah. I find the focal clear, there's a little bit of sharpness there to the consonant sounds, like the 8.5 kHz. Just a little bit, it's right on the edge for me.
It's way more dynamic than the Ananda is, though.
Oh yeah, it's a punchy, Yeah. Actually, I have a bone to pick with you about the term dynamics.
Oh really? Okay.
It's your fault that people are confused about this. Because there's the way that you and I are talking about it right now, and then there's the way that before people used to describe dynamics as the gradations of volume, softs to louds, and also microdynamics, softs to softs.
Macro, there's
all that stuff, And now when we talk about dynamics, we talk about excursive capability. We've actually had this we've had this conversation in Discord, but there's like the immediacy of 0 to 100, right? That's that's the punch.
Yep.
And then there's the gradations for how fine that can be.
Yep.
So rather than like single digit intervals from 0 to 100, it's like several decimal places, right? That's kind of how I'm envisioning the idea of microdynamics.
Yeah, that's fair. Like the quick transition between like slight.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to maybe, and I'm not saying everybody needs to do this, but that's why I'm trying to if I'm talking about what we're talking about when we say dynamics, I'm trying to instead refer to it as like the punch or slam or like or like the excursive capability. Whereas the other part I almost associate more closely with detail, because that it contributes to the way that detail sounds. But again, detail is one of those tough ones. We can talk about this afterwards, but it's the one of the most difficult ones. Yeah, like how do we even demarcate that concept of detail? Because it's the result of so many different things, right? It all contributes. Yep. Detail is distortion. No, I'm just
memes. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Okay, yeah, I'll let you continue with let's say $1,000 and now $2,000. Yeah.
I don't want to think about a HD 800S for that. If you, that'd be used though. I don't know. It depends if you go used or new though. That's the other question.
Oh, let's say new.
Or even go HD 800 with SDR.
The SDR. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If you only go new, yeah, probably a clear, or an Aeolus is a little more than 1,000.
Aeolus would be like 1,100. It's
yeah. If you stretch up a little bit, then you can go like Aria or like LCDX, but I don't know. LCDX
if you could,
my favorite thing, but
if you could pick between the Aria and the Clear, which would you go with? Because those are like full price, around.
That's the question.
Yeah.
That's tough.
For me, it's not tough.
You're gonna go Aria, I'm assuming.
Well, I'm a huge Focal fanboy. I love.
Oh, the Clear. Yeah,
but
I'm leaning Clear as well.
No, I would go Aria, but I'm saying that's why it's surprising for me. But to me, it's like I like the Clear a lot, but I think that the stage and depth and all that stuff for the Aria is just it pushes it over the top for me. Exactly. Yeah. If you want punch, if you want
punch and
like
macro dynamics and
and the Clear has that in spades.
Clear has that.
Yeah, for sure.
But both,
I guess you
really can't go wrong with either. It just depends on what you value.
Yeah. And the build quality and the design and
the build quality of the Clear.
Yeah, I got so angry at the Aria. I was like, what even this ridiculous headband thing doesn't make any sense.
The one that Taryn Andrews sent me was literally brand new, like never used before, and you just pick it up, you just twist it, it's like squeak, it just squeaks.
Oh yeah, you have okay. So then you probably did have the latest revision, because the one that so you didn't have the one that I reviewed before in the summer.
No, the one I have is
okay.
before you had it.
Oh,
Fixed.
okay.
The one I have is brand new.
I thought you did yours after I did mine.
I don't know. The one I have is brand new.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me see. I can verify.
I don't remember.
this.
But
Sorry about that. I was having the wonderful overheat.
Max's hasn't overheated yet. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Do
you have the there's a setting where you can increase the overheat
threshold?
Yeah.
His house is going to burn down soon. He's just like running it up to the max, and that's what max settings is all about.
Anyway, so what were we talking about?
The Aria versus the
Aria
clear.
versus the clear. Yeah, I mean, like, so you really can't go wrong with either. It just depends on what you value.
Yeah. In any case, I need to re-review the Aria and see, just give it a proper review, and then potentially buy it because I really liked it. Even though it has 8.5 kHz etch from frequency response, just a little bit there, and then it has a 5 kHz peak as well. That's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But beyond that,
people find that the treble's too peaky on the Aria.
It is for sure.
Which is fair.
Like if I wasn't going to EQ anything, I'd take the clear. But because I'm comfortable, taking that down a little bit, I basically just EQ it to sound like an Ananda. That's my ideal frequency.
That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, so then above that, actually, here's a good question for you. Where do you place the HE6 in that?
The HE6.
Above, yeah.
So the HE6, I'd put it about like $1,000 in terms of like detail and whatnot. But in terms of like overall slam, it's like one of the best that there is if you amp it right.
Double-sided magnets for the win.
Well, yeah, you need the full speaker amp with like all of the gain and stuff. But yeah, it definitely slams up there. Yeah, with like the likes of LC4 when you amp it correctly.
Interesting. And so you'd put it like, say, would you put it above the Aria then?
Once again, depends on what you want.
Yeah.
Where the Aria is still that much larger stage and presentation.
Stage depth.
Yeah. And I mean, and then you also can use it on more rational amps where I would take a Aria over an HE6 if you're running an HE6 off like a very low to mid power amp.
Say you had the i5 stack, the 14 watts.
14 watts. I don't know. That's tough.
As far as like normal headphone amps goes, like I don't know anything that's more powerful than that. Like
Ragnarok.
How much is that? How much did the?
Well, let me look. With the i5 is what 14 at 16 ohms? I think it's at 16 ohms.
I think so.
The Ragnarok is 24 watts at 32 ohms.
Okay, well that's.
But keep in mind the Ragnarok is literally a speaker amp where they route the 4-pin XLR is the full power of a speaker amp, which is what I'm using. I have a Ragnarok.
Ah, okay. I was gonna ask. That was the next.
Oh yeah, what am I using? Yeah.
So I guess in your case, then the HE6 would be, placed higher than the.
Well, that's the one I own. I don't own an Aria. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess fair enough. But do you EQ a little bit for the?
No, I honestly don't.
Okay.
No, I review everything with no EQ, but I mean I understand and respect EQ, but I don't know. That's just what I do. I just review it stock, and I guess you could say as the manufacturer puts it out.
Yeah.
Quick. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask what the next tier would be for the.
Well, I was gonna say
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to interject real quick. So in the chat, they're kind of going on a little bit, and that's about the Aria. So let's keep that level real quick. The Aria versus Headphone. So I know I've had the Headphone.
Right.
Andrew, you've had it.
I've not had it yet. I'm getting it.
We should we should send
next Flux was going to send me one in like 2.
Oh yeah, he bought one, didn't he?
Yeah, he's going to send me one in like 2 or 3 weeks. So I'll have it mid next month. But yeah, I'm not going to comment on that, but I'll let you two.
Well, I haven't heard Aria, so the only person that's heard both of them is Andrew.
Yeah. So for me, for the stage presentation, it's way different. The Aria stage presentation is much more forward in front of me, and the it's still decently wide, but the depth is more forward depth. With a headphone, it's lateral depth, right? The forward stage is not as forward. It's the lateral depth that's just crazy, and sort of I can only really describe that as like endless. I don't know. And as far as like overall detail capability and textural nuance and all that stuff, I think that the headphone is better, like noticeably better. As also for what we're gonna call here dynamics. I think that the headphone is also better. But and as far as the overall frequency response without any EQ, the headphone is also more agreeable. But as Max was saying, there's a bit of a downshelf there for the bass. So it's not really like a Harman like presentation. It's more traditional, kind of like a Utopia presentation, which I think is fine. For the music that I like, I think it's fine, but it could benefit a little bit from that bass shelf there. But at the same time, I don't think you have to EQ that. Whereas with the Aria, I wouldn't use it without EQ, because the 5K hertz peak, well, it's like 5 to... I think there's a few peaks there, actually.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 peaks.
Yeah. So I would be dropping those down a little bit. At least the one at 5K hertz, because that bugs me a lot. And then there's one in the consonant range there as well that I would want to drop. But the bass response in the Aria is a little bit more elevated too, so I wouldn't need to change that.
I'd be curious to get your opinion with it after it's been out and is when it comes back, because I experienced the bass getting better as I listened to it longer. And I was talking to Ian, and he said the same thing. Like his has gotten a lot better.
Interesting. Because, I mean, really, I used it for a week, so I don't know. It just came out, and I was like, all right, let's, everything was focused on that one, because it kind of blew me away with the detail that it had.
Yeah. I remember picking things up, like, all of a sudden, like the weird sound, like way over here, and I'm like, what was that?
Yeah, and this, it's faster, too. Like, that's the thing. Like, the headphones, the speed is nuts.
Really, really fast.
And, like, normally when I listen for that kind of quality, I think I said this maybe in the written review or something. Normally when I listen for that kind of quality, I'm listening for, I notice it most in, upper mid to bass. How tight and well defined is the bass? How capable is it in busy passages? That kind of stuff. And with the headphone, I could hear that everywhere. It was like, like when you listen to an LCD4 for the first time, you're like, holy smokes, the bass is incredibly detailed and articulate. I had that same experience with the headphone for the rest of the frequency response, and not as noticeable in the bass. But that I think also has to do with the design of that AMT driver, where in order to get the bass response to even be where it is, they had to do a lot to make it full range, right? Otherwise, it would just drop down, because it's mainly meant for tweeters. Or not meant for, but it's been traditionally used in tweeters. Yeah.
The fold varies across the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So when they change the geometry there, they can change they can influence the bass response to actually be able to extend. So I think, to me, that's the one area where I'd say definitely the LCD4 wins in terms of capability and detail and all that. It's in the bass, but for the rest of the frequency response, all of the technical performance, I think, is right up there, or pretty darn close.
Possible.
And I have to, again, it's one of those things where, like, I'd have to have them side by side to make that judgment. I don't know, like, I wouldn't feel confident from memory being like, oh yeah, the LCD4 is better detail, or the headphone is better detail. But for the Aria, I can definitely say that the headphone did perform better on those categories, right? So I think, personally, if somebody was like, here's the headphone and here's an Aria, because I'm a necklet, I would probably pick the Aria. But I have to also remember that most people aren't necklets.
Headphone is LCD4 weight.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't mind the comfort as much either. I don't know, maybe it's just the way that it's distributed or something. It just doesn't pull my neck down as much. But I still for long sessions. Plus, I'm constantly wearing headphones and editing videos, and I'm focused on working at a desk. That 730 grams or whatever, 715 grams or whatever it weighs, I think it would get to me after a while, whereas the
I would
Aria,
imagine.
yeah. But the other thing too is like both of those ones, they are incredibly open. Like they
Oh
with
yeah.
it's like with the Aria, like my computer fan is like the noise floor is just raised like crazy. So that's kind of a drawback, at least I'm finding for both of
And then
them.
also, well, leakage. But as long as you don't live with
Oh,
anybody, you're fine.
I don't
Like,
care about that.
They're both like they're both literally almost like speakers. Like it's almost as
Yeah.
loud off your head as on your head.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it really just depends on whether or not you can handle the weight, and if you can, then absolutely go with the headphone because that's kind of I think that would be almost a no-brainer.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, but then if
sorry,
you
go ahead.
can't, the Aria is not a bad choice.
Someone in the chat said, "Can you define slam?" And
Yeah, I'll let you take
let's
that because
go
that's
this real
your
quick. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I think I explained this in my Aeon 2 review, but so slam is the overall, I'd say, the sensation of like a bass like hitting you, and a lot of people think that you need the bass to be boosted to give like a literal like physical sensation of bass and it actually being physically louder. But if you take a headphone, say like a Mr. Speaker's Ether Open and an HE6, they both more or less measure with flat bass roughly, or you could pick another something like maybe like a Hyphaman Ananda or something. But when you listen to them and you get a bass note, like a really hard bass note, the sensation of impact on, say, an HE6, because it has a lot more slam, it feels a lot more physical with a lot more punch than like an Ether Open would, despite them measuring with roughly the same bass
Yeah.
response.
To add to that point, it's like what we were saying earlier about the speed at which it goes from 0 to 100.
Yep.
If it's better at going from 0 to 100, pistonic motion, let's say, then the slam might be better. And that's also the excursive quality, and that's
also
why
how much the driver moves.
yeah. So that's why often for dynamic driver headphones, because it's a cone shape, often like it's much easier for it to have a higher excursive force. Whereas planars, you're dealing with a plane that kind of pistonically goes like that, right? So having more excursive capability allows for that slam quality to be enhanced, and that's why something like the Focal Clear slams way harder than something like the Aria, or even these ones, the Elegia slams harder than But it's actually interesting. I wanted to get your input on this because I was trying to ask Sankar about this, and I didn't quite get the full answer. I was a little bit uncertain about this, but why do you think it is that certain planars are able to slam like crazy? Not talking specifically about the Mr. Speakers ones because those are designed differently. But say you have certain planars like, for example, an LCD4 or HE6 where the slam is just crazy, and you compare that to something like even the HE1000 from Hi-Fi Man or the Aria or some of those other planars. Why is it that for some of them you get a ton of slam quality or punch, and for others you don't? And it seems like the drivers aren't categorically bigger or anything like that. I mean, we even just said it with the Diana Phi, right? Like that slams decently hard. Same with the TC, and the drivers are not particularly big. So I'm just wondering, like, what's your take on that? Because Sankar said that the LCD1, the small LCD1, actually has about the same flux as the LCD-X. So that's why Metal and I were sort of confused about this, because like I really don't know in planars what causes that the dynamic punch to be better or worse, whereas in dynamic drivers you can point to it and you could generally it's the excursive quality.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I've always kind of assumed too with planars, was somewhat also the excursive quality, because one of the things too with the HE6 is that those are known to die because the driver has so much excursive force, it actually can rip itself and actually smack into the magnet structure.
Right.
So that's what I've always assumed. But as for why like the LCD4, I mean, I don't know if it's just the overall like how fast that driver can move because of how much like fluxor density it has. Same with the Dianas; they have really high flux density
Mm-hmm.
on their magnets. But I mean, I don't know the exact number of how much the LCD4 driver can actually move, like how big
Mm-hmm.
the gap is between the magnet structure.
Right. So like the actual distance that it could go.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
actually matters too.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I would assume is one of the reasons why.
It has a lot of room to
Yeah.
actually move with a very high fluxor density.
Whereas if you have like an LCD1, it's a tiny headphone.
It's tiny
And
headphone
you just
with
don't-
a single-sided magnet.
You don't have any of that, right? So yeah, it's to me it's an interesting subject, and
Yeah.
but you know like
Yeah, and then also the counter side, when you go over to the dynamic drivers, the ones that people say slam a lot are the ones that physically move a lot, like
Yeah.
the Focals or like the Fostex. Like if you look at a TH900 driver, you can watch it move, which is something
Yeah.
you really can't say about like an HD 650 or something like that.
yeah, I mean it's interesting. Like one of the I've even heard a Utopia recently, but I actually think that Utopia slams pretty hard.
It does. The
It's,
driver moves.
Yeah.
It's really light and it moves really fast.
Yeah, yeah, but there's the pistonic motion. There's a certain amount of distance there, right? It actually travels.
Mm-hmm.
So that's responsible, at least at least from my understanding. It says excursion / driver size determines SPL. I don't.
That's the other counter argument, but it's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean this is why that conversation with Sankar was so puzzling to me, because it sounded.
Well, it also could be some combination of excursion with speed too.
Yeah. Right. But so Sankar was saying that one of the things that contributes to that punch quality is, or at least the perception of that is base elevation, and then the reason why the LCD1 doesn't have it is because it has a downshelf. And to me, that's the same thing we were just talking about earlier. Like the perception for sure, and that's why the Aeon 2 the perception there is, it feels like it slams harder than the original, but at the same time,
no,
it's
pull
not
out that base.
exactly.
Base,
yeah, it's not there. It doesn't really slam that hard. Yeah,
I've talked about this too in some of my videos of people boosting bass to give the sensation of overall slam.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think what, as Sankar was saying in some Odysseys, I like especially the lower end ones like the 2. I do think that the fact that the mid range is so dipped out that the bass is theoretically elevated, that does contribute somewhat to the overall slam of the headphone. But then you have something with very high driver excursion like the HE6. The mid range is very slightly dipped, but it's not as nearly as much of an Odyssey, and that also slams really hard.
Yeah, I just he said Skork B says, yeah, scientifically I don't think we know.
Yeah, we don't. We're just
no, yeah, just speculating. Yeah. But that's what I'm wondering is, do the engineers know? I don't know. Like,
I don't know.
is it
Some
just-
do, some.
yeah.
They have theories, but I don't think we conclusively know.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that like you can have, I mean, the same, like you're saying, the same measurement in the bass, yet it's a different feeling, and it's probably also not just for the bass.
No, but
It's just that's where we notice it a lot.
yeah, that's where you more notice it. Agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just sort of reading up on the.
I feel like we were going to move on to another topic.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to ask you, like, once we get sort of above that, like $2,000 range, like what's like the next kind of like
Above
let's say
$2,000,
upper like whatever $2,000 plus.
Yeah, I mean LC4 and Utopia have historically been my 2, but now DMS Diana is possibly getting to be the one. But before that, it would have been LC4 Utopia.
Not the. So actually, I was able to hear the Shangri-La at CanJam.
Oh, the Shangri-La. I heard it
Yeah.
last year. I didn't hear it this year, but
I heard it in a private room with the Fang Bian, and I didn't hear it for that long. I didn't get a chance to but yeah, I mean, it sounded like an E-stat. It was the most open sounding headphone I've ever heard. Like, open.
The Shangri-La is really detailed, but it's just really thin.
It's
it's not my kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I would take an 007 over a Shangri-La, even though it's less detailed. But
where would you put? That's a good question though. Where would you put the 007 in that?
Oh yeah, I forgot the 007.
With like say the 2.9.
I mean, the 007's over $2,000 new, so you'd have to put it over the $2,000.
Oh, it's barely over $2,000.
2.1 for a brand new 2.9.
Yeah.
The 007 is really good.
Yeah.
Mostly because it's the least sounding stacks. In all honesty. It's the only one that actually the L700 is pretty good too. That's the other of the modern stacks. Those are the two I like. I don't like any of the other Lambdas or either of the 009s personally, but yeah, that's the only one that has like relatively kind of normal FR. Like it actually measures. It's fairly similar to an Odyssey more or less, but just with more air. And then
the 007 does.
The 007 measures just kind of like an Odyssey. And then it actually has some sensation of slam where like the 09 really doesn't. But the 09 detail is nuts.
Yeah. Where would you put the AB1266 TC?
Yeah, we didn't talk about the 1266. Yeah, the 1266 that's right up there too with probably the 09 in terms of detail. But that thing on the Linus stack was crazy.
I have some pretty good footage of Metal 571 trying out the.
Yeah, that thing's hilariously.
I was creeping up behind him. He didn't know I was there when I was filming.
Yeah, and the reason why I think we're hyping the Diana 5 or DMS Diana 5 more than the 1266 is just because the Diana 5 with the DMS mod is just so much more livable.
Yeah.
It's still amp picky, but I don't think it's as amp picky as the 1266. The 1266 seems really source revealing, and then just that overall weight and fit and comfort is just not that great. But the DMS Diana is really comfortable and light and it's actually livable.
Yeah, I didn't mind the weight of the 1266. It's only like 630 grams or something. 630,
yeah, but something about the way it's just the shape of it with that like rigid strap.
Cyberman.
Yeah,
I had to get DMS to like help me with the with the fit, and like when I put it on, I couldn't actually fit my head through it.
No, that thing's a rock. Like you could kill somebody with that
headphone. Yeah. So for me at the show, like as much as the Shangri-La was like the craziest for detail and like the most, let's say, transparent in the sense of like openness, right?
Yeah, it would be up there with one of the most detailed headphones I've ever heard.
Yeah, but
real quick, did you try the Junior?
It was it was the Shangri-La on the Junior amp.
Okay, the Junior I actually think is better than the full Shangri-La.
Really?
That's a different story.
For frequency response or like technicality?
Yes, frequency response and actual it's less thin.
Oh yeah, because it's less thin. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. But yeah, so as far as like the like transparent in the open sense, in the like it doesn't feel like there's a headphone there. It's just music. Like I was asking Dr. Fang or Dr. Bian what his version of like neutral is or what that is. And he said sitting in Carnegie Hall in the best seats possible, right? I thought, okay, yeah, that I understand like that sense of openness. But as far as like what I was for potentially attainable headphones,
would you pay $50,000 for a Shangri-La?
No, that's like even the AB1266 TC is like out of the it's like $5,000. Yeah. So it's like even more if you get there's the different packages you can get. You can pay $1,000 for a
you can get the
shelf.
$30,000, $50,000 for the
It's
the shelf. Is it? EMS do that.
Oh yeah, the shelf is like $6,000 just for the shelf or something.
Yeah,
I'm like, what is the shelf made out of? Why is it $6,000?
Just made of the bones of people.
The cord shelves that you got to get.
For the cord shelves for like the Daves. Yeah.
Yeah, the Daves. Those are expensive. I'll get it out.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was the AB1266 TC was the other. So apart from the Shangri-La, the AB1266 TC was the other experience that I was like, oh yeah, this is like up there, if not better than the LCD4 for detail,
For detail.
technical. Yeah,
but everything else about it,
the frequency response is still odd with the I mean, the frequency response, the LCD4 is odd too. So what are you going to do? I mean, that's I wanted to actually we'll probably have to wrap up soon because we've been talking for a while, but there's just a theme that I keep noticing with trying out flagship headphones, whether it's IEM's headphones of whatever driver type. Usually it's more with planar magnetics than others, but I often feel that companies are trying to push the boundaries as far as technical ability goes, and not really focusing as much on frequency response and tonality. And this would make sense with Abyss as well, because actually when I was talking to DMS on the one that we just did recently, where he's talking about how their goal was to create one of the most technically impressive headphones you could possibly have, and then not worry too much about frequency response at the moment, but so when people move it into different positions and change the sound, right, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you guys, I mean, what do you think about this idea of, it seems like there's two ways of approaching headphone design. One is technological advancements and just going full blown to see what we can do as far as technology goes, and then the other is what can we do as far as the tuning and the frequency response to make it match perfectly with what's going to sound ideal. And so, for example, something like the Borealis, or even some of the stuff that Ryan from Modhouse is doing. I asked him that same question actually, and I don't know which I in my mind you need to have a balance, but and it seems like, at least with Abyss, that now they're bringing in some of the, like with the different revisions that they have, like the TC and whatever they come out with next, it seems like some of the scrutiny towards frequency response and tonality are now being figured out better. Whereas before, maybe that wasn't as much of a priority. It was like, okay, how do we make the most technically crazy thing that we can? And so, yeah, what do you guys think about finding that balance, or the approach, or the method? Should we focus primarily on technicalities, or how much should we pay attention to tonality, tuning, frequency response, and that kind of thing?
I mean,
yeah, I'll leave it to Tyler first.
Yeah, I'll jump in just because I'm not as technical as you guys are. But for me personally, I think you should start with whatever curve you think is the appropriate start to it, I guess. And then from there, just find your own sound, I guess, to what you think is good, like what they find enjoyable. Because that's what's going to differentiate them from the other companies, right? Is what their house sound is, right? So, at least in my opinion, I'm not that technical person. But so I would look at it like the way, if you look at all of the different headphones currently on the market, right, they all have a house sound to some degree, right? So that's how I would look at it. I think that they are kind of pushing that, going into that tonality and that thing. But as soon as you start, everyone starts following the same curve or following the same tonality or the same, I think that's when you're gonna, like, at what point do you just become sell everything to Apple and make Beats the final end all total head? I mean, I'm joking, but I mean at the same time, like that's at what point, I think the spice of life factor, like what, there, you kind of mentioned in one of the other YouTube videos, Andrew, was the having different headphones for different moods, mentalities, flavors. I mean, that's part of the joy of it too, right? Like that's when it goes back to my discussion of what makes me relax or that kind of thing. Like the experience also is like picking the headphone I want to listen to. Like, what's my mood? Oh, hey, and not everyone can do that. I get that, and that's a big deal. So you need to find that presentation that you prefer and go from there, if that makes sense. So I think as far as what headphone companies are doing right now, as far as searching for that final FR or tone, I think that
timbre as well is in there, right? With other, say you just want to go for timbre, and then figure out frequency response and how all that's going to enhance the timbre, right?
Exactly. I think that they just need to kind of continue with what they're doing. I don't think any of them are actually doing anything overtly wrong in that sense. I think they just need to find their own path and just stick to it, if that makes sense. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Is don't try to go back to the crowds, or like go back, find what you like, and then go from there. I mean, I'm granted, I'm talking about companies that are probably multiple people making these decisions, or by committee, that kind of stuff. But I think that the sound engineers need to get involved. They need to bring in people that are close to what they like, or what they're in their preferences. So like for example, is the DMS mod you guys are talking about, right? They brought DMS in to Abyss, and all of a sudden look what they've done. They've taken an Abyss sound, their sound profile, and he's tweaked it to what he's like, or whatever, and then now they have a new shelf to base off.
Wow, I don't know if I think he just did that because he wanted it for him, and then it turned out that
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, because now they have that, though.
And
it's becoming a thing. Now they have a new, technically, a new product, right? At that point.
Yeah.
And
well, but that's the interesting thing
of.
is like they have this benchmark for where their technical performance is at with what they've developed, and then DMS comes along and goes, hey, I can actually get the frequency response to be what I would ideally want it to be if this fits me correctly, right? And then doing so, it refines the frequency response so that, at least in my mind, everybody else can enjoy it too, and it's just an overall improvement.
And that's the part that I'm talking about. Like, so go back to sorry, I'm probably wording it bad, but like that's what I'm trying to say is like, so like you go to a CMF, for instance, and you switch pads, and each individual person is going to have a different preference per pad, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about. So keep your house sound, or keep going after those things, and then people will find ways to get it to what they like, if that makes sense.
As long as it's possible to do
Some aren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah,
but that's what But the factor is, though, the higher quality of the headphone, or the companies that are doing well in that realm, the reason they do is because their headphones can do that.
Right. So the minimum, like, you get it to a certain point. At least. Yeah.
At least, yeah. I mean, get it to that like the frequency range that fits majority, right? So Harman or whatever, and get the tonality to as close to what majority of people will like, and then the timbre, all that, and then from there you can tweak it to your desire, and then, and if it's good, it's good.
And then the technical. So what you're saying, though, is that, like, if the technical performance is at a certain level, if people are able to tweak things, the overall tuning with pad changes or things like that, then as long as it's close enough, having the ability to make it more personalized is still good as well.
Because at the end of the day, it's a very personal. I mean, I can't hear anything over there. This is here. This is me. And then after talking speaker, that's a whole other beast entirely. But as far as this is very personal. This is, so you need to be able to find that person. Like EQ is a perfect example of that. If you can EQ something, then that's, me personally, I'm not a big EQ guy, so I tend to just I do what does the headphone present, and I try to find that to match my mood. But that's the point, though, right? So like that's my experience with it. So for instance, you do EQ. I know a couple of people on forums do EQ a lot, and they'll tweak the living crap out of a headphone to get it to exactly what they want, right? And so that's I think that's the key, is being able to allow the end user to either, one, enjoy your house sound, but by getting it to that technicalities and that level where they can, and then also the ability to have the deviation inside there, where if you do tweak something, it's not going to completely make it a mess or garbage, or that kind of thing.
Yeah. Sorry, just reading the chat here. Sandara for sound, if you can get it for $350, yes, absolutely, do it. Do it. But
the Allier's got problems.
Oh yeah, the Allier has. Yeah, for sure.
That's actually a good point. The Allier is a perfect example of that. That one, the Allier is one of the ones that people can tweak that.
That is a perfect example. You get the clear pads, put it on the Allier, right?
And it measures like a Lex.
Yeah.
And then you can EQ it too to some degree. Way more than the build, depending. Once again, personal preference wise.
That's another thing.
Go ahead.
That was another thing I was going to say when you're talking about people massively changing headphones. Is you see this a lot, particularly on Reddit, is everybody does like the oratory Harman EQs, and they throw these Harman EQs on literally every single headphone they own. And the problem with oratory Harman EQs, people don't realize this, is he measures the headphone and he has the computer generate the EQ profile, and he doesn't remeasure the headphone with the EQ profile. And there's some headphones you just can't EQ to Harman. Like you can never take an HD650 and EQ it to Harman. That driver cannot put whatever what would that be, like a 15 dB bass boost at like 20 hertz?
Yeah.
The total harmonic distortion would be crazy.
Yeah.
So
Perfect example.
when you EQ, there's a limit.
Absolutely.
I'd say maybe 3 or 4 dB at any point, but once you start pushing past that, it's just like
you're breaking other parts.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Breaking other parts.
I like Harman, but I've never enjoyed one of the oratory presets. I try it all the time, even for headphones that I know can do it, or they don't change. What's needed isn't all that much. I just, for whatever reason, I've just never really enjoyed those. But yeah, anyways, I'll let you continue.
Anyway, this is my turn to talk about FR.
Well, the only thing I wanted to mention was I've noticed this more. So like for me, I can't name a single like true flagship endgame planar that doesn't measure or sound weird in some way. And so that's kind of the inspiration for this question. It feels like everything from the LCD4 to the HE1000 SE, maybe the Susvara is that headphone. Actually, probably the Susvara.
Susvara is one of the pinnacles of
So maybe that's the only one, but like all of the ones I've tried so far, the technical ability is absolutely there. And same thing with the Abyss AB1266 TC. It's like that. The technical ability is there, but it is scooped in the upper mid range in a weird way. Like the 3K hertz dip there. The pianos sound like muffled and muted, but then at the same time, it's like all of the crazy detail and like the extension capability is nuts. The slam is nuts. Stage is fantastic. So I wonder about that a little bit. Yeah, I was actually going to joke with you a little bit. You've obviously reviewed the Aeon 2 closed. To me, the Abyss AB1266 sounded like an Aeon 2 closed with better technical performance. Like similar kind of like FR, right? Where there's a little bit dipped there. And then tons of air, and
the bass
lots of... Oh yeah, way better.
Much
But
flatter.
Yeah, exactly. For the rest of the tonality, it sounded a little bit similar to that, where a little bit muffled on the piano tones.
I can see that.
But yeah, so go ahead with that inspiration.
So this is a complicated question because there's people that are going to argue all day how much the tuning actually matters, and I've seen there's people on both extremes. There's people that don't care about FR whatsoever and think it doesn't matter, and there's people that think it should be the number one priority. And I'm gonna fall somewhere probably in the middle, leaning towards the FR matters a lot side, because at the end of the day, if something's really, really messed up, it's just not going to sound right. Like, I don't know, have you ever seen the graph of the Obravo HAMT?
Yeah, I saw that.
The, like, roller coaster, like
it looks like a comb filter. That's
that'll never sound right, regardless of how technical it is. But on the flip side, there's also the argument of how much does the FR contribute to the other things, like the sound stage, like the detail, like the timbre. And there's different theories on how much the FR contributes to those things, because I've seen people that say that they can tell timbre completely off of FR graphs, which I don't agree with personally, but I've seen people that claim
ridiculous.
I've seen people that claim that
too.
And then I've mentioned this before too, where you can dip out your mid-range to give the sense of soundstage, but then maybe some headphones that don't have as dipped a mid-range also have soundstage, and there's driver placement things. And so at the end of the day, what matters more, FR or technical ability? There does have to be somewhere in the middle, like a middle ground of, you have to get the FR at least somewhat to your target. But if you sacrifice the technical ability, then if you're trying to charge big money for it, it's just won't work. So you have to somehow get that perfect, or not perfect, but somewhere in that middle ground of the balance of how close can I get to my target while also maintaining my technical ability. And But this is
So
a very complex issue.
as the guys from My Tech were saying, you gotta find the Gaussian curve, where it's like, wherever the middle is, for you know performance to frequency response to tonality.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'll say about like the 009. The 009 has crazy detail, but it sacrifices almost everything else for that detail. That's really weird FR. It's kind of thin sounding. The timbre sounds really wrong.
Yeah,
But it's it's one of the most resolving headphones in existence, though.
So like when you get the technical ability to a certain point, then you can charge big money for it. But if it sounds horrible,
yeah,
you could have that headphone that's worth the $4,000 or whatever that actually doesn't sound good. It just has the crazy technical ability to be able to hang with everybody else up there.
Pretty much, but it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I'd rather buy an LCD4 with, well, I guess that's also weird FR to be fair, but
oh yeah, it's just super weird. But
hard.
that's the thing with the LCD4. There's two things going for it. One is that we're used to knowing what we need to do with an LCD4.
With an Odyssey, yeah.
Yeah, and then the two is the reveal plugins. Right, so that's makes it easier.
Yeah,
whereas
so
a lot of the other ones are like, we don't know. Yeah, it's easy to EQ an LCD4.
It's very simple. You just pull up like for 4.5K.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just gonna say I notice it more. It's very noticeable in planars and E-stats, but it's also, I feel, even more noticeable for high-end IEMs, where like something costs like over $2,000, and the technical performance is crazy. But I just think to myself, did anybody actually listen to this after they put these crazy drivers in? Like, there's so many IEMs that I think, how can you justify this price tag? But at the same time, they probably can, because whatever technology they're using in them is groundbreaking, is like something new and pushing the limits and whatever performant category.
And you want to talk about headphones using new technology? You got this thing.
Oh yeah, that was the other one I was gonna bring up.
That's a whole nother. Yeah, we could talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, that's the Aura.
The Aura sound, which I'm actually gonna film the review of that tonight. But
yeah, let's wait till your review on that one, and then you can kind of.
I might give you a little quick preview,
but sure.
Anyway, so what was I saying? Something before the Aura. Oh,
IEMs.
IEMs, yeah. I mean, honestly, what you said about IEMs, I think that a lot about some headphones too.
Yeah,
like, did anybody really listen to this thing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have a lot of IEMs with really weird FR, like the Campfire IO. I think it has like the weird like little peaks.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I didn't find it had peaks. I just found it had a piece missing between 2 and 3 kHz, like just gone. But I didn't mind the IO as much, because I thought that the areas where it's like, well, I'm not a fan either, but like I thought that some of the criticism wasn't as well placed, because if you compare the IO's treble to other IEMs that cost a lot more money, the treble for the IO was better. So it's like, well, it depends where you define treble.
Yeah, it depends on what you value.
But like, I've heard some IEMs at like $900. That's like, how can you justify this? Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever look through like Critical's ranking list, you go down to like E tier stuff, and it's like $2,000-$3,000.
You see the price tags,
yeah, and there's like $2,000-$3,000 IEMs with like, or and then once again, like the Bravo Raw CQ, it's a $10,000 IEM.
Jesus,
that measures horrendously. It's just like okay.
Well, actually,
I totally agree with you.
That leads into another question one of the guys had in the chat here. They wanted to know what each of our preferential IEMs were. I guess we could do another quick.
Like favorite IEMs.
Just real quick, I noticed. I wanted to mention something here.
Oops. Well, my camera fell over.
No. So as he's fixing that, MDZPNMD asks, why are beryllium drivers the best? So if you're talking dynamic drivers, it's because they are self-damping. Beryllium is like, there's a video somewhere where somebody has a tuning fork made out of beryllium, and then they have a regular tuning fork. and then they hit it on the table, and the beryllium one has zero resonance whatsoever. It's just like thunk. And so yeah, it's a self-damping material, and so you get incredibly fast drivers if you're just using pure beryllium.
They're light too, right?
Yeah. So your stiffness and rigidity is just off the charts, and so you have really good. Well, first of all, the excursive capability is good in the Focal headphones, like the Utopia and the Stellia, but you get really good restorative force as well. So your overall speed is just nuts with those. But as far as whether or not it's the best, I think that is more of a personal preference thing, because we do end up getting people who this is what we talked about last time, Tyler and I did, where we have people who there's a certain reverence for like biodynamic sound or something with timbre or something like that, right? Or me, I love the sound of planars, right? So it's not enough to just be like, oh yeah, beryllium is the best driver type. It's a little
very
more
personal
complicated
too. Like, it always goes into that, right? There's always going to be that personal factor.
Yeah,
to it.
Exactly. Yeah. While we're waiting for Max to solve the issue here, we could talk about IEMs.
The HDMI cable broke in the camera. Let me see if I can fix it.
Broke in the camera?
Like the connector broke off.
Oh,
that's
no.
No buenos.
I think that might be it for my video, but that's fine. I'll just.
Well, this will be the last question, and then
we'll
wrap it up here
real quick. I have the least probably amount of experience with IEMs than the rest of you guys.
Sure.
I'm not the biggest IEM guy, so I tend to last resort is IEMs for me. My ears don't get along with them. But as far as the ones I use the most, I would have to say the Andromeda Green, the original ones. I think the version 2 is what I used for a very long time. And then I recently, in the last 6 months or so, got the Andromeda Golds, which I really enjoy. They fit a nice profile for me. And then I went through like a series of the wonderful, I guess I want to call it Chi-Fi or the.
Oh yeah.
And so, and I actually really enjoyed some of those, like the 10 group, the
10 Hi-Fi.
Yeah, 10 Hi-Fis. They're 1 through 3 and up the pros. I actually got all of them, all the versions, and then eventually, like, I slowly gave them to like family as gifts. But those are really good too, especially for the price. I was really impressed with those. Trying to think, the other ones are really good that I liked. I really liked the Solaris, but it was just too big to me. Like, that was actually honestly, if I could have fit those in my ears better, I would have those instead of the Andromeda.
Yeah.
Trying to think the other ones. I've had the Comets. Actually, I think I have them sitting here somewhere. But I think I gave them to the wife, and I think she banged them together too much, and they don't sound good.
Just sitting there like smashing them together.
Yeah, she's not. So now she has my last pair, the most recent 10 Hi-Fi. So I bought those, and I ended up giving her. And then the I think it's KZ. I think I had a couple of those, and those all went all friends. Those are all really good. Like, as far as the price and stuff, I think those are. Those guys are insane what they're doing with that.
I need to get more into some of the Chi-Fi IEMs, because what I heard at CanJam was I heard the Moondrop Blessing 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
that IEM for it, the price was crazy good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's basically a Harman tuned ish, similar to a Harman Target with pretty darn good stage.
Everything Moondrop is Harman Target, more or less.
Yeah, that's there. Yeah, so they'll sound good from a tonality perspective for most people, but the stage on it, it had good technical ability, better than what I would have imagined for the $320 or whatever it costs. It's really inexpensive, but really good. For me, for IEMs, I guess Max is still here, but
I'm still here. But
this stream is the only record of Max's face now, so he's forever not going to be able to turn the camera around.
No,
but yeah, so for me, for IEMs, the best IEMs that I've heard, like my ideal IEMs, are the 64 audio ones. Like everything they make, so this goes back to the question we were just talking about before about technical performance versus frequency response, or versus tonality, let's say. And it seems like, again, with IEMs, when I'm comparing them, some that focus exclusively on the technical performance, or that they're not as meticulous about the frequency response and tonality, I end up not enjoying them as much as the ones that are specifically tuned for frequency response and tonality, because with IEMs I have trouble EQing if I'm on the go somewhere from using this DAP doesn't actually have a built-in EQ, right? So changing it is a bit of a challenge with IEMs, or more of a challenge for me. So I'll go with the 64 audio stuff, because to me that stuff, while it is technically very impressive for detail and for all of the categories, they also are very meticulous about frequency response and tonality, even when they're trying to produce stuff that has different flavors, like different types of sound. So like, for example, my go-to ideal tuning, like favorite IEM so far is still, I think, the U12T. But it's a tough choice for me between the U12T and the TIA Trio, because the TIA Trio has better technical ability for bass, even though I really like the bass of the U12T. It's tight and awesome, and it's just that the TIA Trio has a slightly more fun V-shaped kind of sound, but it's tasteful. It's not like extreme. It's not a lot. It's just a little bit. And so to me, I don't know which one I would pick. I think it would depend on the genre. Whereas the U12T is much more treble focused, and the treble detail for the U12T is still some of the best I've heard in an IEM. It's a little bit emphasized, but it's fantastic. So I would have to say that's like the number one for me is U12T. For technical ability, the Legend X was surprisingly good for soundstage, better than the TIA Trio I found. But the tonality there was just too much bass. Like, yeah. So actually, the Valkyrie I have here, I used that on, but I actually did a quick impressions video of the Valkyrie as well. But that's sitting right in front of me. The Valkyrie is an extremely V-shaped IEM with about the same technical ability as the Solaris, but the Solaris is a more normal tuning. The Valkyrie is like, it's bass and treble, and then there's a bit of a 5k hertz peak, which it depends on the music that you're listening to. For some of the music it's totally fine, but for some other music you notice the 5k hertz peak, which it leads to a bit of what I like to call like percussion compression, like cymbals and stuff sound a bit compressed. But overall, still, like the technical ability of those Empire Years IEMs are crazy good. Like even the one that I use, the Zeus 14, which I didn't really like all that much, the technical ability there is nuts. So like right up there with stuff that costs more money. So I'd have to say like my ranking for IEMs right now would go like U12T, TIA Trio, Solaris, Legend X is in there too. I think it's, you got to celebrate what they achieved with the Legend X as far as technical performance, and then Solaris is in there, and then after those I would go with Andromeda, and very close to the Andromeda, I'd have to have them side by side, would be this new Moondrop Blessing 2. I don't know, Max, what did you think about the Blessing 2?
What's the Blessing 2 cost? Like 400?
Well, so I saw a price for 320.
320? Yeah, for the price is pretty good. Did you try the S8 though?
Nope.
Okay, the S8 is like the Blessing 2, but like better with better detail.
Interesting.
It's like 700?
Okay.
It's pretty
Wait,
good.
is it also Moondrop? Who makes
it's also, Moondrop S8.
Ah, interesting. I need to get more into the Moondrop stuff, because man, like, to me it's like tuning. And like that's the thing for IEMs, because I'm not gonna EQ my IEMs, even when I listen to the Andromeda now, like that's been like a benchmark for so long, and I listen to the Andromeda now and try and compare it with other IEMs that I don't know cost the same. Mm-hmm. There's stuff out now that I think it kind of dethrones the Andromeda a little bit.
Yeah, the big one for me was the Sony IER.
Oh yeah.
Like it technically retails at $1,500, but it's like $1,000 on Amazon now.
Yeah.
And that thing is crazy good. And I've seen them for like open box sets for like a little over 600.
Yeah.
That thing is crazy good deal for how cheap they are.
I did hear the Z1R
IR-Z1R. That's the big
yeah.
hype.
I wasn't a fan of the treble. Like the bass was very good. The detail on the bass was pretty crazy. And for the most part, the frequency response was agreeable. I found that it was a little bit lacking in the, it just felt a little bit too relaxed in the treble for me.
I would call it, interject real quick, like you're talking about the Andromeda's kind of setting that standard, and I think of it like it reminds me of the way the HD800 was and is, if that makes sense, like where it falls now in today's market today. You know, if you almost similar like comparison wise. As far as like where they sit with everybody.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd like to see more hybrid IEMs. I think that would be. We've been dealing with Knowles balanced armatures for way too many IEMs for way too long.
Like, you see, the thing that's interesting about the Sony IEMs, like the IER Z1R and the M9, is they are BAs. But Sony has so much money; they make their own BAs.
Well, same with 64 Audio's, the TIA drivers there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like not all BAs are the same, but I do see a ton of IEMs that use
your Knowles or Sony.
Yeah. And I just in my mind, like I get a little bit more sensitive to the BA timbre the more I listen. It's like the Zeus 14 here, 14 Knowles BA drivers. And the BA timbre, while it's crazy detailed, the BA timbre obscures the detail, I find.
Yeah, it's just, and some BA IEMs have worse than others.
Yeah.
Like the U12 is really good timbre.
Yeah, and it's like that's the thing. Like I always thought there was a limit to what BA IEMs could do, and then I heard the U12T and I was like, no,
and the bass too for an all BA has a really good bass.
Fantastic for but I still think hybrids are the way to go. No,
The other thing I was going to point to, the thing that I actually walked away from CanJam this year buying was Etymotic ER4XR.
Oh, crazy! I didn't know that.
That is a 1 BA IEM. And the amount of detail that thing can pull and the amount of bass it has for like $300. I paid $250 on a show discount, but
they cheat though.
300, is crazy good resolution and bass for a 1 BA IEM. It's honestly amazing that a single BA driver can pull like that kind of technical performance and tuning.
Yeah, the Etymotic stuff is like also a bit of a benchmark there for tonality and all that stuff. But I do think that they cheat because they only have to contend with one gain factor.
Because for the money though, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, I can never get around the like pushing a finger length into your ears.
Well,
odd.
That was the thing, was I could never do them either. But they're coming out now with the dual flange tips. Instead of the tri-flange, they're way better. They don't have to go as deep. So I was talking to the rep, and he's like, "Yeah, over the years, we've had a lot of complaints that the tri-flange are too deep and not comfortable. So now we have a new dual flange that don't have to go as deep." Because that was always my thing, was I couldn't wear them because the tri-flange is too deep. But now with the dual flange, they're actually pretty comfortable.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm still potentially looking into maybe getting some customs at some point.
Yeah, I have a pair. I have
I'd be interested in
UERM.
Did anyone get a chance to see the new Andromeda customs that they're doing?
Oh,
I saw them.
Equinox? Yeah, I listened to it.
And Solstice is the one for the.
Or is it the Solstice or the Equinox? I always get them backwards.
Equinox. So one of those.
Which one is it? Hang on.
Is it Solstice? Solstice sounds. Is it
Equinox? Equinox is Andromeda, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Is Equinox Andromeda? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I did hear it very shortly. Or no, Solstice is the Andromeda. That's the new
Solstice.
one.
Okay.
Solstice.
What's the Equinox then?
What is the Equinox? Is it?
Equinox was older. The Solstice is newer.
I don't know what the Equinox is. The Equinox is just one single DD. Huh.
Oh, that's.
I don't know if that's like.
I don't know what that is then.
I don't think that's a custom version or anything. I think that's its own beast. Yeah, but the Solstice, from my like 2 minutes of listening to it, sounded a lot like an Andromeda. I didn't hear it back to back, but the overall tuning
Yeah.
sounded very reminiscent of the Andromeda. It might have been better detailed, but I didn't listen to the Andromeda right after it, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
So how do you listen to a custom IEM at a show?
So with the Solstice, it was a custom. You just have to like force fit it.
Oh, okay. So they have a general.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds gross, man.
Yeah, you have to force fit it. It's weird.
IEM's at a trade show. That's some.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Equinox is Atlas. That's right.
Was it the Atlas? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you hear? Speaking of 64, did you hear the new A18S?
Stage. No, I didn't hear it. No.
Okay.
Again,
Yes, they had that there. They actually had a regular universal version of that for showing
Wait,
off.
what? They had a. Wait, wouldn't that just be a U? Oh wait, it'd be like a U18S.
Yeah, but they're not actually making a U18S. They're not selling that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of 64 audio stuff that's
on
the horizon. That's yeah. I'm hopeful to get a chance to do like a full 64 audio comparison review.
That would be cool.
To me, like everything I've heard from them so far has just been like, yep, these guys do it right.
Mm-hmm.
They figured it out.
Was like, have you heard the 18 versus the 12? The T18T versus 12T?
The 18, I did finally hear it, but I didn't compare to the 12. No.
Okay, but generally I actually like the 12 more than I liked the what do you call it, 18T.
Oh yeah, me too.
And
for sure.
yeah, I told that to the rep, and he's like, yeah, a lot of people have said that they like the 12T more than the 18T. So with the 18S, we tuned it a lot more like the U12T.
Interesting.
And sure enough, it does sound like a more detailed U12T, but it's
so it
only
sounds like
custom.
For if I'm gonna get custom, I need to get the.
I mean, obviously try it, but
yeah,
you can.
But they should do well if they do a universal of that at some point. That would be.
Well, they probably won't though, because the stage.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyways, we should probably wrap this up because we've been going for a couple hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, I wanted to ask one last from the comments. I was
Sure.
Yeah.
There's it's kind of two that the Fijian guy jumped in real quick. He was like, "How do you deal with significant others in your headphone hobby?" And then the last one, which I think we should all end with, was, "What's your worst fear in this hobby?"
She actually just like walked out. She's like, "You're doing this again? I'm out."
Yeah, my wife's she's like, "Oh, you're doing that? I'm gonna go go to the store. I'm gonna go shopping all day long, man."
Yeah, I got a message from her saying she's gone. So, how do you deal with significant other with this hobby? Well, you don't. You just don't have one. No.
You hide in a room by yourself.
It reminds me of Olive's Gadgets video where he was comparing his review channel to Z Reviews, and he says, "My first question for you is, do you have a wife?" Yeah, it's so far it hasn't been like an issue for me, but I think there's a lot of understanding can go a long way, and so if you can start the like difference process and involve the person. Like be like, okay, here's here's this more, here's what you're used to, and then here's a Sandara, right? Or just it doesn't need to be a crazy one, just something that is actually good. And then they get to a point where it's when they finally realize that they don't ever want to go back to that crappy thing that they were using before. Like in my case, it was the Beats. The one I reviewed, I don't remember the name. Solo 3. Yeah. Where when my girlfriend said that it sounded muffled and horrible, I went, yes. Whereas I think if I didn't go through that process of hey, try this one out, or try this one out, try this one out, and to the point where now she's used to good sounding headphones. I think if I didn't go through that process, the Beats Solo 3 would have sounded like, oh, lots of bass, So it's just a matter of bringing them along, I think. And with IEMs as well, actually, with IEMs it was a huge one where it was like going from little, garbage earbuds that come with phones, unless they're the good ones, the Galaxy ones or whatever, but like the ones that you get that for like, $20 or something like that, to I think in my case it was Brainwave's B400. So it's a 4 balanced armature IEM. It was like, oh, this is way better. It goes a long way. So that would be my advice for that. I don't. What about you, Tyler? For
as far as that goes, yeah, my wife is ain't nobody got time for that type of person. So she tends to like, okay, these are cool, they sound good, anyways, and we'll move on. So she's harder to. I mean,
with that in mind, don't say how much stuff costs.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
That's a big no.
Yeah.
It's there's a joke about somebody who posted up as about mountain bikes, something like that, and it's like, in my will, don't tell my wife how much mountain bikes cost. And I was like, I repurposed it for like headphones, like, in my will, don't tell my wife how much my headphones cost. And then, but yeah, as far as that goes, I think the biggest thing is just be honest about it. Try to get into it, but at the same time, it's going to be that everyone has their own thing, and sometimes it just doesn't work. It's like trying to, But I think once she goes back to right now, she's using, like I said, the 10 T4s right now. She had the Comets before that, but before that, she was using like those $5 jelly buds or whatever the heck, the skull candies. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
And so I think if she ever goes back, I think that will be the final, like, oh, haha.
There are also, people who specifically will only get headphones that have cat ears, so they have to have their cat ear headphones. And if that's the case, then I just think they don't care about music.
And all you do is you buy them a good headphone, and you get the clip-on ones that Razer makes, and you're good to go.
Actually, the best cat ear headphones are it's this right here.
The Verum 1?
The Verum 1, yeah.
Yeah. Or the Verum 1.0. He changed it recently, so it doesn't look like that anymore. But...
Oh, it's got to have cat ears. I do the cat ear video with because you get tons of emails. I'm sure you get it too, Max, of people trying to say, "Hey, can you review this cat ear headphone?" So
actually, I've never gotten a cat ear headphone, but I've gotten some weird generic emails.
Yeah. But yeah, so what's your
solution? Do you Max? You're a young kid, so you got a significant other in your life.
What, just dealing with whatever headphones with other people, or
significant other?
Significant other. Oh, well, I don't have a significant other right now, so
that's the solution. That's how you do it.
Yeah, right. Life's so much easier.
I know.
Yeah.
Do what I want.
Yeah. Okay, biggest. What was the
biggest fear in this hobby? And so I was saying, like, he was mentioning audio loss, so basically losing your hearing.
Oh.
So I mentioned get a decibel reader and keep your levels low enough to where you can listen over a long period of time.
84 dB, man.
Yeah.
I'll go over 84. Biggest fear for me, would have to say. Okay, so this is like, it's not like a fear that I'm dealing, like, not anything that I would personally have anxiety about, like on an immediate basis, but sort of a general sense of worry is that we hit the limit of what's possible for technical performance for detail, and that it doesn't ever get better than what the current best is. That's sort of a general, like, what happens if, like, that's the limit? And then, but it's still, there's room for, you can take that and make it more accessible and more,
I like shrinking things down.
Yeah. But, like, if that's as good as it gets for recorded music, right? Music that, digital music, then, where do we go from there? That's the question.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is I could honestly almost see arguing that we are at that point where
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
you can't, even right now. I think we actually kind of pretty much with stuff like the 09, the Shangri-La, the 1266, where I think we really are even past the point of what humans could feasibly hear for detail.
That's because detail's distortion.
Yeah, but the thing is that microphones are more sensitive than human ears, so there could be stuff in recordings that microphones can pick up that I think typically
if you were there,
if you were listening to it in real life, you wouldn't hear. Like I actually joke a lot that the 009 is more detailed than real life, because at that point you really are bottlenecked by the quality of the recording. But
I want that. I want more detailed than real life, and I want it to just keep going more and more. So I want the microphones to get even better. I want to hear things that don't exist.
Yeah, well, at that point, yeah, we're limited to the microphone, the recording and mastering quality.
Yeah.
But as far as headphones go, I think we're pretty much getting there.
Yeah.
But we could still get better. So that's as far as detail goes. But we could still do better as far as stage presentation or even slam or all the other
all of them into one instead of
exactly.
Yeah.
And get like your frequency response certainly we can improve on, right? So there are still improvements there to be had.
Yep.
But yeah, my worry is that like that when that gets figured out completely, and then it's like, oh well, that's just the best headphone now, and then we don't have conversations like these because everybody knows what the best headphone is, and then you just save up money and buy it. I don't know. That's like to me, it would be boring if that. Yeah,
but
like
I don't think that'll ever actually happen. Sadly.
No. But anyways, I'll let you guys chime in on biggest fear.
Biggest fear.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think hearing loss would be definitely up there.
Oh, sorry.
As far as immediacy, I would say plugging in anything and having it blow up on me.
Yeah, this guy over here is a worry. Yeah. Sorry. Samuel White says details, coloration, and timbre is distortion. I got it wrong. Sorry, guys. Detail is coloration, timbre is distortion. For anyone unaware, that's a joke. That's
yeah.
For most of us. For most of us, that's a joke.
Yeah, if you hang around audio Discord, you might get that. If not, then probably not.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. I'll let you continue. Or Max, what's your biggest fear?
Let's see. Personally, I mean, probably. I mean, hearing loss is the only thing that comes to mind. But I seem to be doing okay. But as far as like fear in the industry,
yeah.
That's a tough one.
Losing a pair of really expensive IEMs.
Yeah.
Throwing them in the wash.
Yeah, my HE6 dying is a constant fear because those things.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But as far as industry goes, I mean, none of my fears I'd say are really founded. I mean, there's like, I don't know, people like agreeing upon like a one like universal standard that I highly disagree with or something like that. But I don't think anything like that will ever actually happen.
What about, so again, another one of the things that I was chatting with Dr. Bian about from Hi-Fi Man, he's pushing heavily on wireless, and in my opinion, it's not there. But
currently, it's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah,
we had this discussion like 3 or 4 years ago, and now it's
but
finally getting to the point where it's like, okay, it's usable now.
My worry with that though is that while yes, it is still going in the right direction, and it will eventually, I think, be there. I think he's right about that. I do still worry that then we lose this whole relationship with source equipment, like tube amplifiers, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you're gonna wear tubes in your headphones? Maybe.
Actually, I think there is a headphone with tubes built in.
Really? That's crazy.
It is. I forgot what it's
Is it like
called.
one of those like the ones from the NOS General Electric where it's like tube but only sort of a tube?
Is it like the?
No, I think it's
the one that's in the N8. The one that's in the N8.
Yeah, that
new
one.
tubes.
Yeah, new tubes. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's a full tube. I have to find it.
That's crazy. But yeah, like just the relationship with the source gear and that doing all that kind of stuff.
I mean, you could argue that you could make like hot swappable amp and DAC modules, but the thing is like, how many people really care about?
Once you have the headphone, like, and you're like, for example, with the Panda, right, using the THX amps. That, I mean, on the one hand, it's cool that they do that because then you actually get amps that are good enough for the Oppo driver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but the downside, as far as I see it, is that you lose the relationship between the headphones and the various different types of equipment that you could potentially run it from, because you're always now fixed running it off of that whatever's in the headphones.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, and I get he's pushing wireless, but this actually reminds me something of an interesting conversation from CanJam. Was Sankar of Odyssey. He was carrying around a a prototype of the LCD1
Felix.
closed back. The Felix, the Odyssey Felix is what it's going to be called. It's the LCD1 closed back that everybody wants. But it's Bluetooth, which that's a whole nother discussion, is why would I buy that over Mobius? But anyway, regardless. You know, and Metal 571, he told him, he said what everybody in this room wants is just a passive LCD1 closed back. And Sankar responds, he says that everybody in this room wants that, but that's not what the general market wants.
Yep.
But
he's probably right.
He's probably right, yeah.
Much to my dismay.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is a lot of these audiophile brands are going to have to start figuring out is how much do they want to start catering towards, you know, the general market, and at what kind of price points.
Yeah.
Because there's some companies that make like multi-kilowatt headphones that like I think are targeting consumers to somewhat, and I'm just like, how many average consumers are really going to buy this product? And they make sacrifices for.
Well, that's the whole concept of you know, quantity over quality, I guess, right? Like some level, right?
I don't know. I think one of the biggest limitations though for audiophile companies who are you know, releasing these multiple $1,000 products, or even just the $1,000 price range, isn't the price. It's the design of the headphone. It's the way it's the way that this stuff looks or is you know, usable, right? People who are like, again, it's the most people. If you tell them, oh, I have some really nice headphones, and how much they cost? It costs $1,000. They go, oh, does it do noise canceling? So really, that whole idea of, you know, usability and also aesthetics, like I think, I can't, like walking through CanJam, I was like, I can't believe that people think that this stuff is a good idea for how it looks, for design. It might look good for us, for audiophiles, but for a mass consumer audience, a lot of this stuff looks very like conversation piece in a bad way.
Yeah. That's where I think the Focal comes into play, right? Like they're catering to a lifestyle. Like if you look at the lifestyle stuff, right?
Yeah, but even then, man, like the Stellia is an acquired taste for how it looks.
Yeah, the Legia better looking.
Legia is the best looking headphone. Yeah, it's fantastic.
But
everything should just look similar, you know, to this.
I was even saying, if they made the Stellia in this color scheme.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's bring up. Sorry, go ahead.
I would say look at like Hi-Fi Man headphones. They sound amazing. Apart from the sort of like looking at them, the Sandara is the most normal looking of all of them. All the rest of them, they look crazy.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to talk about too. Is like they have the Ananda Bluetooth right now, and I'm just like, okay, it's cool, but like, who really wants this product?
That was also like wireless open back is weird.
Open back planar that leaks tremendously, because those are like basically speakers.
Did you see the footage of me walking around town with the? That's the problem, man. Why would you?
And it's just like, okay, well, no consumer is going to buy this because they don't want an open back headphone. And it's like, at this point, if I'm going to bother with, you know, having an open back planar headphone, do I really want to gimp it with Bluetooth? It's just like, because you're taking those steps at this point, and it's just like, why am I making this like little sacrifice if I'm already going towards all the trouble to maximize, you know, my utmost quality?
So Fang's counter argument to that, because I raised that issue, his counter argument was that Bluetooth, the next Bluetooth protocols are going to be far superior, and they're getting a lot better. And so he thinks it's going to be good enough in the short term to where maybe not the Ananda and the Deva, but whatever the next version is of those headphones would be able to take advantage of.
Kind of like getting ahead of the curve kind of thing.
Yeah. Did you try the Deva?
The Deva?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
What did you think?
I actually didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty decent. But I only tried it. You didn't like it?
I don't know. Well, that's the thing, though.
Metal didn't like it. Flux didn't like it. I didn't think
the tonality was not for me. Like for its performance, I think it could be okay, because it's like an entry level. It's like
$299.
Yeah, it's entry level, and
with Hyperman prices, that'll be like $180 in like 6 months. So.
Yeah, so like for that, I think it's probably fine for its technical ability. I mean, it's a planar. It's based on the HE400i's.
Did you try it wireless or wired?
I tried it wireless.
Okay, I tried it wireless too.
Yeah, my concern with that is that as soon as so with the Deva, I feel that while you gain the convenience factor and the advantage of wireless, and it is nice, you lose the benefits of a planar. Like the whole point of a planar, like the Sundara, for example, is you get crazy good separation and like crazy good speed and not stage necessarily, but like the technical performance is unique. And once you make it wireless and you also, I mean, there were certain things with the frequency response that I didn't really like either. It's like, well, why even have this when you could have if you care so much about wireless, why would you get this over one of the dynamic driver headphones that's already doing it well, like the Sony I can't remember that.
Well, yeah, and then
Sim 3 or
but then who really wants a wireless open back too? That's
the other thing, yeah. Like,
I don't
to me,
understand the wireless open back segment at all.
not at all, no. But so when I was chatting with him again, you guys will see I'll release a video of it. But he said the inspiration was from when he was lying back, and that sense of freedom that he got without having to compromise on the sound quality. That was with the
that's what people tell me, but it's just like really?
But I still think you compromise on it a bit. I mean, the Ananda Bluetooth is not the same as the Ananda wired.
No,
like anybody would. Well, and also the sound, like the frequency response is different too. Like I think anybody would. The only thing that's the same is that it has the same. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But
now on the flip side, you have stuff like the Mobius. That makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's closed.
It's closed, yeah, because that's why it makes sense.
Multi-purpose too, right? Like
it's multi-purpose. The only thing with that is the noise floor. If they could put like a THX amp and a Mobius, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing for me. It's like, why we're doing audiophile high-end headphones that, especially in the planar world, that many of them require a certain amount of power. I just feel that as soon as you make it wireless, it defeats the purpose of it being in this audiophile category for sound when it compromises on the performance.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Was like, if you're going to the trouble to do the audiophile thing, why am I gimping myself?
Exactly.
Why are you putting a limitation right off the bat?
Yeah, why am I putting a limitation if I'm already going through the hassle of going to the audiophile space?
We're dealing with an industry that I mean, I guess they don't want it to be in the audiophile space. They want it to be more.
And this is like another conversation I've had with people, just like through Discord chats, is people are like turning on like all this like volume normalization and like compression in their music, because they're like I don't want to have to change the volume for every song. And I'm just like, so you go through the hassle of buying a DAC, buying an amp, getting FLAC,
crazy like $500 cables,
headphones, and you're gonna lose the dynamic range in your music because you can't take 2 seconds between each song to change the volume.
Yeah,
it's stuff like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, like I think I like hi-fi, man, the way that metal likes Odyssey, I think.
Yeah, I generally like hi-fi a lot.
But the wireless stuff has me worried. We're getting back to what worries me, and it does. Yeah.
That, and then really, really strong objectivism is another one that worries me, because I'm seeing that grow a lot.
Yeah, I always love borrowing or stealing the phrase from Ryan from Modhouse, where the hardcore objectivism is it's defining the terrain by looking at a map rather than defining the map by looking at the terrain.
That's actually
that's a good quote.
Yeah,
like that.
And so to me, it's like, actually, I have a video out about this in the next little bit on the ZMF pendant, where basically, it's exactly the point where we'll latch on to specific data points because that's what we have right now, but that doesn't entail, or that's not.
Where's the enjoyment? What's that? There's that piece, right?
Yeah, so it's like several pieces of the picture. We're not getting the whole picture from it for as far as what the experience is.
Yeah,
and so we're saying, okay, here are these pieces. That's therefore that is what this is like, and it's like that's not enough.
No.
So, yeah.
I mean, I could go on a whole other thing about like audio science review and how flawed that logic is.
Oh yeah.
Thing.
And then you get people from Reddit being really angry, and then
or
people that have never even heard a thing.
Yeah.
Try to burn to the ground. Like, have you even heard this?
Yeah.
I had somebody arguing that trying to tell me that anything that costs more than the JDS Atom is adding coloration to it.
Well, I mean, or this just the fact. Well, see, this is the thing that baffles me about hardcore objectivists like this is there comes a point in the measurements of like SINAD and THD and noise floor and all that
Where it doesn't matter.
where it doesn't matter. So there's this hard cutoff point where it's just like, okay, anything above this, objectively speaking, shouldn't be audible. And yet when you go to like ASR, and like one of my favorite ones was when the Monoprice 887 came out.
Yeah, that was
and it
ridiculous.
measured like 1% better than the 789. All these people are like, "Oh, I'm selling my 789 to buy an 887."
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But
It's
if you
the same
truly
thing.
believe what you preach about these objective measurements, you shouldn't be able to tell a difference anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't think these people really understand what these measurements mean.
Yeah.
But then also on the
Yeah.
flip side is then they want to be totally subjective with headphones at the same time, which is like,
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
it continues the circle of confusion, right? Like you're trying to work with the best like inaudible differences with this with source gear, and you're running, 650s off of it. Like,
yep.
650s are great, but man, it has bass roll off, and it's like it's not perfectly well extended either. So I don't know. Like to me, even the guy who posts Aimer, even the guy who posts that stuff says you can't. There's no audible. Yeah, there's no audible difference.
No.
So,
But yet somehow they like recommend they'll still buy $1,000+ amps and DACs based off measurements when it shouldn't make a difference.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm more interested in measurements for headphones. Like, I think if we had all the perfect equipment, that's the thing. Like, a lot of people who are these hardcore objectivists, they'll point the finger at, well, I have this data point that proves that what I'm saying is right, and therefore what you're talking about is just your subjective experience nonsense, right? It's all BS.
Yeah, but you tell them that about headphones, they're like, wait a minute.
Well, there's that, but then I feel that like if in most cases, I think for the rest of us, if we felt that we actually could be perfect objectivists about this stuff, we would be. If we had every single visual representation of the way that something sounds, whether it's for source gear or headphones or whatever, we would absolutely be objectivists.
Oh, yeah,
Just the reality is that we don't. We can't have that yet.
You can't.
And on the flip side, I personally believe that it is possible to solve audio objectively. We just don't know how to do it.
Exactly. It's we're not there yet.
How do you measure
I'm
enjoyment
pretty
in the sound, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Or distortion, enjoyable distortion, I guess.
Demonstration, yeah. But I do think that there is some way to measure the stuff that we don't have a metric for, like
Exactly.
detail.
Yeah. We'd have to find some new.
Names, but we just don't know how to do it.
Yeah. So for all those things, like whether it's detail, whether it's even like that, if you listen to the Verite Open, there's a certain like what I can only describe as euphonic quality to the mids. That I don't know what that is. I don't know how to where's the visual data point for that.
The 3D factor of some headphones.
Yeah, the holographic nature.
Like it's
or that was like
you put these with head.
But then with like amps and DACs, like why do some amps and DACs sound more dynamic or more detailed than other ones, despite measurements not saying so?
Synergy too. There's a synergy factor.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Anyways, we should probably end it there because we've been going on for like almost 3 hours now. So
pushing
my
3
wife
hours.
goes. I'm pretty sure I need to go.
I want to thank both of you guys for sticking it out this long, and thanks everybody in the chat for sticking out and asking questions. And it's always awesome to do these kind of live streams. So we're gonna hopefully be doing some more of them. In the meantime, for those of you guys who aren't aware, this is part of the Tyler and I are both part of the, and Max as well, the Headphone Community Forum, which I've linked to below in the description. So if you guys want to join the rest of the community, some of you guys are already from there, many of you guys are from there. I see Martin in the chat.
Yeah, Martin and Chris. I think Titian was in earlier.
Yeah. So by all means, join us in the Headphone Community Forum. And I've also left some links in the description for where you can learn about some of the, we're talking about some stuff where we're using all kinds of different terms that you might not be familiar with. And if you want to learn about some of this stuff, I've left some links below where you can go and just some, headphones 101, become an expert on headphones, that kind of stuff. And actually the one that I think a lot of people, even if you're already an expert, that might be helpful is how frequency response or changes in frequency response impact sound signature. And that way, when you're looking at a frequency response graph and you see various different, deviations, elevations or peaks, dips, whatever, you'll be able to get a sense of what the effect of that is going to be for the sound signature of the headphone. So definitely check out some of that stuff, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the community forum as well. But apart from that, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks to Tyler, of course, and thanks to Max Settings. I'll leave a link to his channel. Go check that out. And yeah,
thanks for having me.
Follow him on Twitter. Alrighty. Cheers, guys. I'm going to turn off the stream now.